welcome. Who's here? Let's see. I see Kai, Keith. A few people saying they're new. If you're new, introduce yourself. Let me know where you're from. Why are you learning Korean? Why are you learning Korean? That's a good question. When I was first starting learning Korean, so back in 2005, it's been almost 20 years now, like a full 20 years. And people would always ask me, like, why the heck are you learning Korean? Because nowadays though, there's kind of more, there are more reasons to learn Korean nowadays. Back then it wasn't as many reasons to learn Korean, but now there are a lot of reasons. There's Korean dramas, K-pop, all that stuff really took off outside of Korea around that time and a little bit after. So yeah, welcome everyone who's new, as well as everyone who's old, as well as young and old. So you could be old and new, you could be old and young, or you could be new and old, or you could just be old and old. But no matter who you are, welcome to the stream. Yes, Kai and Keith were giving me announcements. Yes, I was reading those. And now, your host and mine, Billy Go! Yes, exactly. That's what I was imagining too. What are you going to do to celebrate 20 years? I think I need a cake. That's I'm going to go for a cake. Now, the actual day I started, I cannot tell you because I don't really remember, but because there were different moments where I like started learning Korean back in 2005. Like I think one of the Korean friends I had at college taught me the tried to teach me the alphabet. I remembered nothing right after I said goodbye to them. But I think that was like in January or February, but I might be wrong. That might have been earlier or it might have been later. So I don't really count that. If I count the time where I actually went and bought a book to learn Korean, I think that was around May. Maybe? But I'm not really sure. But it was sometime around this time. So yeah, it'll be 20 years-ish. Give or take within a month or so. Like I said, I don't really have an exact date. Maybe if I go back through if I could go back through like old journals or, pictures, or if I could find some sort of record of me with one of my Korean friends, then maybe I could pinpoint exactly, the day that I would have officially started learning Korean. But anyway, it was sometime around this time. Hey, Kai! Beginnings of my cake fun. Thank you. Kai, they're actually going to be starting YouTube like goals where you can officially like have a little goal on your stream that's like not in the video, but over the chat, so it doesn't mess up my stream. I think that would be really cool. So when I get those, I'll be turning them on for maybe a second cake fun, but for right now, they're not available yet. So Kai has our first sponsorship today toward cake. So anyone, if you want to donate toward cake, I'll put a little cake icon next to your donation like that. Thank you, Kai. What kind of cake should I get for a 20-year anniversary? You were asking what I'm planning on doing for my 20th year anniversary. I think I'll probably make some sort of video where I recap my 20 years of studying Korean. Maybe I'll title it, "You've All Been Fooled. I don't actually speak any Korean. Here's what I learned after 20 years. Hashtag nothing." Like maybe something like that could be good. Billy exposed. Billy doesn't actually know anything after 20 years. Something like that I think could really be like some good clickbait on YouTube, right? We need some more of that. So maybe I'll go that direction. We'll see. But I might do some sort of recap video where I talk about things I've learned over the past 20 years, because there's a lot, but there's also not really that much at the same time, if that makes sense. Don't worry about it. The more Korean you learn, you'll know what I'm talking about. The more you learn about anything, but also Korean, the more you'll realize how little you know. Was that something like Plato or Socrates said, or something like, I don't know. Ida Martinez, I can't read your first name, apologies. You say, "I'm old and old," from Mexico. Yeah, it's okay to be old. I sometimes, maybe about once every few months, 2 months, 3 months, I get an email from someone saying like, "Hey Billy, I'm 70 years old," or "I'm 80 years old and I just started learning Korean." And that's really cool. There are lots of other people that are that age. You're not special, okay? Okay, Gramps, you're not special. There are lots of people that are studying Korean that are really like over 70, over 80, in that sort of age that you would say, oh, they're too old to learn. But no. There are lots of people that start, and depending how much time you're able to put into it, I do see people actually learn Korean at that age and still get to a conversational level. So yeah, it's not so much about your age, although of course, if you start as a child and you grow up in Korea, that's the best, but it's not so much about your age. It's really just how much time you're putting into it, how much you're practicing it, how much you're listening to it. All of that kind of comes together. And that doesn't really have anything to do with how old someone is. Keith says G.I. Joe. Which G.I. Joe are we talking about? G.I. Joe, was that, did they say that too? The more you know about something, the more you realize you know little less about it, or something like that. Was that a G.I. Joe quote? I didn't watch G.I. Joe as a kid. 안녕하세요, 빌리 선생님. Welcome, Lexica. It says if it wasn't Plato or Socrates, then it's probably Mark Twain. It's always one of those three, right? Or it's incorrectly attributed to Abraham Lincoln, right? It's one of those. And it actually comes from Harry Potter or Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Or something like that. I think that was what Harry Potter said in the second, or was it the third Star Trek movie? Yeah, one of those. Oh yeah, and knowing is half the battle. That's right. Yeah. And now you know. I think of something completely different when I think of G.I. Joe. Elisa says, Korean's my 5th language. I'm low-key so nervous to start because it seems so difficult. It is, but not like you can't do it difficult, just that it's going to take more time difficult. But that's okay. Yeez Sao says, a word of a day I learned from Didi's podcast. Mengyeon. Mengyeon. I don't think I know that word. Let me check if I know it or not. I don't think I've heard it. Is it a new word? See, I don't live in Korea. I'm there for 3 months of a year, 3 to 4. Are you sure you wrote this right? Unless it's a new slang word? I'm going to say you didn't spell it correctly because it doesn't show up in the dictionary, even in the Korean dictionary, unless it's some really obscure word. I don't know, but please check and let me know. I'm curious. I always like learning new words. I learn new words all the time, but they're usually like kind of obscure words, so maybe that would be a word I should learn. The old cartoon at the end were, yes, that's right, with the announcements at the end. Pork chop sandwiches. Kai, with great power, sad Uncle Ben. Yes. Sad Uncle Ben sounds. That's correct. Mikey says, explaining to people why I'm learning Korean is always fun. It's like they get learning a second language, but why Korean? Yeah. Why Korean? It's a fierce dog like a pit bull. Ah, Mengyeon. Oh, okay, Mengyeon. I was like, Mengyeon? I had never heard. Mengyeon makes sense. Sure. Kyun is the Hanja. Let me see if I can do it. Let me see if I can do it without looking. I know it's this. It's not this. This is the one for thick, I believe. I'm going to guess it's here, but let me check. Now I got to check it. Kyun. Yes, I am right. It is correct. But to be fair, that's one of the easiest Hanja. Kyun means a dog. So anytime you see something with kyun in it, that doesn't mean it's going to mean dog, because there are other words there are other Hanja that have the sound of kyun, like 의견 is an opinion. Kyun can also be seeing something. Kyun, I believe that's the same one that's used in peanuts, so that's a different one, like nuts. Kyungwa, but I'm not sure if kyungwa should be Hanja. I just don't know I'm not sure what the Hanja represents. Yeah. Anyway, peanuts sort of thing. But then for kyun, there is also one that means dog. So like you might see, if you know 견 means dog and you see the word 광견병, 병 is a disease or sickness. 광 is another word you might know, or you might not, from the word 광기, which means like madness. 광 is mad or obsessed or crazy. So crazy dog disease is what we would call, in English we call mad cow disease. Or actually I believe that's, that's, what do you call it? Rabies, that's right. Mad cow disease is different. That's the thing you would get from beef. That was back, like, I remember they had like some thing about that early, like 2000s or something. Yeah, so this would be like your rabies, so like mad dog disease, literally. You can see A for love. One, I'm actually not sure which one's the one. One, is that for close? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, 애완견 is for a pet, but you might Google this and think that it means like any pet. But if you know the Hanza, you'll know it's specifically for a dog pet because it's 애완견. The word for any pet in general will be 애완동물, just animal. So that's my like half effort Hanza lesson, because I know like enough Hanza for it to be helpful, but that doesn't mean I know like every 10,000 Hanza there are out there. I know like all the common ones, what they mean, but there are so many lesser common ones that are in the words that we use. Uriwa. What is this? What is this currency? Try. Try is a currency? Where is that from? I almost wrote try. Is that supposed to be uriwa? Or is that... I don't know what the currency is, so I have to search it. 45 try. Turkish lira. Turkish lira. That's like $1.25. You know what? Normally I round down, but because it's such a cool currency I've never heard of, I'm going to keep it $1.25 as your conversion rate when I write it on the board. Thank you, Uriwa. 두개 내열정, you didn't forget the word. Yeah, there you go. I like Hanja because it's legitimately useful. It's not one of those things where you learn it and it's just cool. You're like, oh, but it's like you actually can use it all the time. And the more Hanja I learn, or at least I shouldn't say the Hanja because I don't really care about reading and writing so much, but the sound and the meaning, the more that I learn, the easier it is to learn new words, even like random words. 묘, on the other hand, which 묘? There is 묘 for a grave, if that's one. There's 묘 for like odd or strange. I'm sure there are other 묘. I just can't, nothing's coming to mind right now. Lexica also said, as a result, the feeling when something clicks is so gratifying. Yeah. For cat, cool, isn't it? Let me check. It's not coming to mind right now. Let's see. Cat, Hanja. Oh, you're right. 묘 is the separate one. 묘 is also a cat for Hanja. But if you search the let me find the Hanja for that. There was another one. I'll have to search it and have to show it to you. There are other Hanja for animals as well that are also embedded within the words in Korean. Like the word 호랑이 for tiger is actually from the Hanja ho, meaning tiger. So it's like comes from Chinese, even though it's a pure Korean, it's a Korean word, but it comes from Chinese as well. There are a lot of words like that in Korean that have a part of it from Chinese, but the rest of it isn't. So you might look at it and think, oh, this is a pure Korean word. I'd rather use this rather than this Chinese word for some reason, but it's actually also partially from Chinese. Yeah, 묘, that's right. 묘, though, is not used much. Like where you'll see 견 in a lot of words, you're not going to see 묘 used in a lot of words like that. So, in fact, I can't think of any words, although I'm sure Korean could. I can't think of any words that use the Hanja 묘 for cat. I'm sure there's a like a 4-character Chinese idiom that uses it, but I can't think of a word. It's a good question. This is random stuff that we talk about before we actually start the lesson, which, by the way, will be starting at the top of the hour. Don't worry. Yo. Let's see. 고양이 묘. Okay, let's see where we get this. Okay. Do we get any words? Okay, let's see. I don't see a single one. Because I can see some words, but they're all represented with different words. Like there are Chinese words for they are not used. You would say a different version for each one I see here. 고양이, let's see. I'm still trying to find if there are any words that would be used. I don't see a single one. If you're Korean, if you're native Korean, you're watching, are there any words you can think of? 그 고양이란 뜻인 묘자가 들어간 단어가 있는지. If you know, let me know. All I can think of is, actually, I can't think of anything. South African Roha Me Too. That, and once I realized people kept saying Nuna in dramas, but it would be translated as the person's name, I realized, yeah. GOT7 has a song called My Home, and they use cheap. Okay. Myo. Yeah, Myo is for cats with super deep voices. Maybe voiced over by Keanu Reeves or something like that. A myoin. A cat, sure. Love, cat, person. I mean, yeah. Weird that dog was a usage, but not the other. I have never seen that word, but when I see it, immediately it makes sense. So my only guess is it's not commonly used, but then again, maybe it is. I don't have a pet, so maybe that is commonly used. I've never seen it. Okay, we'll get started really soon. Don't worry. We got about 6 more minutes, then we're gonna get started with the lesson for today. We have a beginning level lesson, but that's also for, I would say, intermediate level as well. So it's a beginner topic that strangely a lot of intermediate learners I've seen don't know this. So yeah, it should be fun. So even if you're an intermediate level, don't worry, there's something here for you too. But if you're beginner level, it's not going to be too difficult. There's nothing that's going crazy. It's a beginning level topic that many beginners don't even learn because it's not taught. Even though it's used all the time, it's a form that gets used more in speech, so you don't learn it from your books. And that includes my books too. My books don't teach this version, although it does get taught in my conversation book. Korean Conversation Made Simple does teach this form. I don't know what page or I'd show you. I do have this form in here, but that's because this is actual Korean conversations. Like, they're just 100%, like zero filtering going on. It's exactly something you would hear actual Koreans saying, not like what a textbook would make them say or, craft the conversation to include these phrases. No, it's just straight up a conversation. And in actual conversations, you'll hear this used, 가지고 used all the time, but you're not going to find it in any books because it's like a double meaning. It's the informal version of something you can express with a regular form. And it's better to focus on the standard stuff before you get into the slang, because you can easily be too rude or too casual if you're learning all that stuff first. So yeah, you start with uro, you master that, and then you can add this on top, and this will actually be pretty much just as common in certain situations. So we'll talk about that today. Nasteria says, Myo is for cat. Oh, I just read that again. I see Keith was commenting on that, though. Lexica says, Netflix is the worst when it comes to subtitles. Vicky at least will use Hyung and Onni instead of changing it to a character's name. I think they're both kind of stuck because you can't translate something that doesn't exist one-to-one in any language. And it's not just that word, but like expressions, everything does not translate into English nicely. I have, whenever I watch a Korean drama, which is not common, I'll look at the English subtitles. I'll turn on English subtitles. I usually don't use them, but I have them on because I don't want to watch a drama and miss something that someone said because, you know, my kid asked me a question while I was watching it, or because, you know, some loud sound in the background, I have to go back. I just want to be able to relax and watch it. But every time I end up looking at the subtitles, they're always wrong. And I don't really blame the person who made the subtitles because they have a hard job to do. They're trying to make what the person said short enough so that you can read it. Like, you can't put the whole thing or else it's going to be like really long. It has to be short enough that you can glance and immediately read it and capture the meaning. And in order to do that, you're going to end up with wrong subtitles. So yeah, 언니, 형, 누나, 오빠, all those terms, you can either translate them as just leaving them alone and saying what they are and hoping the viewer knows what they are, or you can translate them worse, I think sometimes, where you say older brother, older sister, you know, when they don't mean that all the time, or friend, hey friend, which is worse sometimes, even though that's the feeling of them. And usually they'll just switch it for the person's name because it's like, yeah, I'm referring to you. Even though I didn't say your name, it would be rude to say your name. But that's who I'm referring to, so you're going to make a wrong choice no matter which of those you go with. But I think it's okay because subtitles aren't made for people who speak that language anyway. If you are a Korean native speaker, you don't need English subtitles, so you don't really care. If you're unable to speak any Korean, you need the subtitles, so those subtitles are for you. For the person who doesn't speak Korean, doesn't even care about Korean, they just want to watch their show, whatever, as long as they understand it, even if it's wrong, as long as they have fun with the show, it's okay. It's a really tricky thing to do subtitles. Keith says, I'd translate young into bro. All right. Bruh. Like two characters are having a very serious conversation and one of them's about to, like, you know, about to, let's say, take out the other person. And it's like, please, bruh. And they just have like serious expressions. Bruh. I could see it. Or they translate as honey. What? Where would they translate young as honey? Korean has expressions of affection for your partner already in the language. Why would they translate a word that's not used for that? Like 형, 오빠, 언니, 누나, those are not used as terms of affection. They're used as terms of closeness, your relationship with the person, whether you're really close with them and you're still being respectful, or they're someone that is simply older than you. They're actually like your older brother. They're not like honey, darling, like that. There are other words. You can say 당신 if you want to be a little bit more formal, old style. You can use 자기 if you want to be more young sounding. There are other words you can use for that sort of thing. Prosaic asks, Billy, if you were a fruit, what fruit would you be? That is the hardest question I've ever gotten on this channel. What fruit would I be? I think I would be a tangerine. You know those cutie tangerines that don't have seeds and they're pretty easy to peel and they always taste like they're in season? I think I'd be one of those little cure. Now, cure do have seeds in Korea. The cuties ones we get in the US, that's like a brand of them that are better. So I'd be one of those. I'd be a cutie. Yeah, I think I'd be a cutie. That's what I would be. Okay. I don't think I can handle too many of those hard questions though. Better ask me something about Korean. I can do that. I can't do fruit. Fruit's hard. Mango. Mango is good. The thing about mangoes though is you get them in season. They're on sale. Like the store will have them like 3 for $1, 5 for $1 I've seen before, like big mangoes. That's the mango that I like. What I don't like is you go to the grocery store, they're $2 each. They're out of season and they're hard. That's not a good mango. So I wouldn't pick mango because they're really finicky. Same with avocados. You can pay like $3 for an avocado and it's like rock hard and the next day it's like rotten. Unless you get it like right at the right time where they're all perfect, every single one of them, and they're dirt cheap. Some fruits are really sensitive to like when you get them. Like it has to be right in season or it's just horrible. Melons, a lot of melons are like that too. They're just rock hard if they're out of their season and they're expensive. Yeah. So, I mean, apples are usually good. Tangerines are usually good. There's some things that are like, they're okay no matter when you get them, but I don't think I picked mango for that reason. Kai, is it the top of the hour again? Is this toward the cake fund though? You have to let me know. Do I add this to the cake fund or do I separate it? 5 for the cake fund, 5 for, I don't know. Is there another fund? Is there another fund you want to start? If you put all this money toward cake though, I can already buy cake with $10. I'm good. I'm set. I'm set for life with $10 for cake. You know how many slices of cake I can get for that? Like, I don't know, like 2, maybe 3 if they're small. I'm set for life with that. That's enough for cake. Yeah, Kai started a cake fund because it's going to be my 20th anniversary this year for since I started studying Korean, believe it or not. Okay, so let's get started with our extremely fun lesson about a beginning level topic that most beginners don't know. In fact, most intermediate learners don't know either. But before we start, let's see. We're going to be learning about 2 particles today, uro and 가지고. And I have taught uro before. If you've never seen this particle before, and you want some more examples of what we're going to be doing today, after we're done, check out my live stream I did from May 9th of 2021, where I talked all about this particle and gave a lot of examples. There's also a worksheet with it. Or if you want to know other ways to use uro, check out my live stream from August 29th, 2021. And I also talk about this particle. So these are other live streams you can reference if you need a little bit more after we're finished, because we're going to be talking about this particle again today, but I'm not going to be going into as many example sentences as I did before, because we're going to be comparing it with another particle. So first, let's start by talking about this particle, uro. Now, the way to use this is very simple. If you have a noun, you'll attach uro to the end of the noun directly if that noun ends with a consonant. So consonant, let's say 집, house, uro. This was a bad example to use because we're not going toward the house. That's a different uses of uro. So without, let me give you a better example. So if the noun ends with a consonant, let's take 손 for hand. Ends in a consonant, you attach ro. If, however, the noun ends with a vowel, you'll just attach ro to the end. Let's think of a really simple one. I don't want to do that one because we've already done that one. Sure, let's do 상추. 상추 for lettuce, you just attach 로. If you're going to be using a noun that ends with this letter, then you also attach 로. That's just an exception if you see it. So that's all you need to know about how to attach it, how to use it. And this particle, uro, you may have seen it before. It actually has a lot of uses. So many uses that I couldn't possibly cover them in one live stream That's why I said to check out the other live streams I've done. I can think of 8 different uses right now off the top of my head, and there are a few more. But one of its main uses, and the usage we're going to focus on for today, is that it can be used to mean using whatever noun that comes before it. So in this case, 손, hand, 손으로, using your hands or using a hand. 상추, lettuce, using lettuce. Maybe you can make a hamburger using lettuce instead of bread. They actually have that at In-N-Out. I think it's called the Flying Dutchman. It's on their secret menu, and they give it to you wrapped in lettuce instead of with bread. If you're like, I don't know, weird or something, or you can't have gluten, one of those. Or you can make something with your hands. 손으로 만들었어요. I made it with or using my hands. So what 으로 does is this. I'm going to write this down so it's easier, since you're probably going to want to take notes on it. Material. 으로 is used to show, with the noun that goes here, what tool or method or means or material or machine or what channel by which something happens. So anything that's happening, what is it happening using? And that using, that noun, can be any tool, method, means, material, machine, or channel, like this. I'll give you a second to write this up. I'll give you a second to write it down, and I'm going to check the chat. Song for twin then. Kai says that was also for cake. All right, I'll add it, then I'll keep it in the cake fund. But I have to go through my old photos and find out like exactly what day did I start learning Korean. If it's possible, I have to find out what day did I start. That way I can kind of properly celebrate it. I just know sometime, by the time it's this summer, by the time it's May, it'll already have been 20 years. Like, I'm positive I was already learning Korean in May of 2005, but I don't remember exactly when. Sue Amazing says, Enway? Sure. Nastaria says, so it isn't just used for transportation. Funnily enough, this is not used for transportation. It's rarely used for transportation, although literally, yes, and it can be. Most of the time in real conversation, this is not used for transportation, funnily enough. So if you've seen examples of, I actually talked about this in the last, the live stream that I did about this, I think the one back from May 9th, 2021, I think that was the one where I talked about it. I actually talked about that where it's not used in transportation, although you can, it makes sense, it's correct. It doesn't tend to get used that way. So if you want to say like, I traveled the method by train, using a train, I went there. You can say I traveled by train, but think about it in English, even though this is Korean, like let's say train, let's say, or by subway, 기차, train or 지하철, subway. 지하철로 여행하다, or just 가다. Let's make it really simple. 기차로 가다, literally to go, 가다. 기차, train, 기차로, using a train to go. So to go by train is what it means. I went there by train. How often do we say this? Let's take a step away from Korean for a second. How often would you say I went by train in English? Is it correct English? Yes. Does it sound natural? Kind of, sure. Is there anything wrong with it? No, but is that what you would say if your friend said, how'd you get here? Oh, you went to France from Germany? How'd you get there? Like, would you say, oh, I went by train? You could, but how would you say it naturally? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? I took a train, right? I took a train, and Korean does the exact same thing. They wouldn't necessarily have a problem if you said, 기차로 갔어요. 기차로, 파리까지 기차를 타고 갔어요 is what they would say. 타다, to ride, to take, like a vehicle. 지하철 타고 왔어요. I took the subway here, not I came here by subway. 발로 갔어요. I went by foot. 걸어갔어요. I walked, right? We express the method of transportation by the action that we did to do it. We're not going to express it by the tool we used or the vehicle we used to get there. I went there by car. You can say it. It just sounds a bit bland. I went there by car. No, you say I took a car. I drove, right? Korean does the exact same thing. And we're not going to be covering that for this lesson because that's from a previous lesson. We're just going to be focusing on this as meaning using for today, but just keep that in mind. Hey, Lexica. Thank you, Lexica. If anyone doesn't know what's going on, these are my sponsors. I don't have any sponsor segments, so you won't hear me promote Raid, Shadow Legends, or anything like that in my streams, but I do beg. So please, if you're able to support me, it really does help. I'm paying for everything out of my own pocket. It's just me. There's no I don't have staff. I don't have people that work for me. At least I don't pay anyone. So yeah, thank you, Lexica. And you wrote minute 7, happy D152 to everyone who's counting. Wait, am I missing out on something? What's day 152? I might be missing something. Shadow says 컴퓨터로 수업 들어요. Yeah. Shadow Spoon is saying 집으로. Oh, we're not going to be talking about that usage of 으로 today, but that's, like I said, check out the live stream I did from, I think it was May 9th, 2021, and I talk about how its meaning is also toward. Today we're focusing on its usage as using. Kai says he is in talks with Adobe. He has an insight source. Yes, someday. Okay, Kai, I know we always joke about it, but if I told you I use Affinity, but if Affinity someday decides that they're gonna start charging monthly subscription, you can't just outright buy the program anymore, I actually probably would move to Adobe. So I'll keep your contact in just in case. Okay, so let's continue. Now, using is the simplest way to translate this in pretty much any situation that you'll see it, but there are a lot of other ways that you could also translate 으로 that will sound more natural. So let me give you some of those. Okay. You might also want to translate it as by, with, out of, via, or by means of. Using is just a good way to think of it because it'll always at least logically make sense if you translate it this way. But more naturally, I think you'll hear by and with a lot. Like, I made it using my hands. Yeah, using, but I made it with my hands sounds more natural. I went there using a car. Okay, but I went there by car sounds more natural. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a moment and then we're going to start with our first example sentence, which I'm already behind time, but it always happens. Kai is the unofficial Billy Go marketing manager. Yes. Leia says, how many days until BTS's return? I know they're coming back in June, I believe. June 5th? Am I getting that date correct? Sometime around there, BTS will be back this summer. So I know they're going to be doing a concert again that's also in June, I think, or July. I'll be in Korea when they do it, but I'm probably not going to be going to their concert. Even if it's free, there's no chance that I would ever be able to get a ticket. But I think I heard that they're going to be doing some sort of concert when they come back. So we'll see. Hey, Ad Astra. At Astra. Wow, thank you so much. At Astra says, can't stay. Thanks for ruining my day. Can't stay, but wanted to show support. Thank you. Kai says he won't just sell out. No, it's not that. It's not that. I would do a sponsorship. I'm fine with promoting other stuff. I do it. I talk about stuff that I like. I talk about books I like and pen brands that I like and software I use and stuff like that. But it has to be something that I actually use. And the stuff I actually use, most of the time, it's not things that would bother sponsoring me. Like, why would a pen company want to sponsor me? Like, Expo certainly didn't want to sponsor me. I stopped using their pens because they were kind of garbage. I switched to Bic. Friendship with Expo ended. Now Bic is my best friend, and these have been good. They've been cheaper also, which is nice. No, I'm not against doing a sponsorship. I just haven't found a sponsorship that I can truly like, because it has to be something I'm using. And the ones that I use, I've messaged them sometimes, they never reply. But yeah, thank you again so much, Ad Astra. Nestaria, quarter of the hour donation. When you say quarter of the hour, it makes me feel like a quarter pounder. I want to get a quarter pounder. Not from McDonald's though, but somewhere that has good hamburgers. Just erase this. We don't need this Korean lesson. You gotta put the Nestaria's name up here. Get out of here, Korean. Okay. I'll put it back here. Bye. Okay. And thank you, Nestaria, as well. Kai says, do we have a Bic representative in the chat? Yes, if there is someone from Bic or Beak, I don't know how you pronounce it, Bic, message me. But no, so far I've been happy with these. The only thing is I want to get bigger ones because the tip is a little bit too fine for me. I prefer the larger ones, but ink quality, the fact I can see how much is left, it really gives me confidence that this is going to be a decent whiteboard pen. And they do work nicely. So far, I'm happy with them. Let me continue the lesson. Let me write up the first example sentence. Actually, you know what? I'm tired of teaching. I've been teaching Korean now for 12 years, giving you guys all these example sentences. I'm done. You make the sentence. I want you guys make the sentence. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. You make the sentence. You do it. I don't feel like it. Guy says Vic and Adobe collab. Yes. Peter says, can you create a list what would be step-by-step guide of learning Korean? Yes, I do. I have it. Let me give it to you. I posted it in the chat. I have a full course. It's free. And it's a list of things you can do in what order. And once you finish with that, I have another course you can do. So don't worry about it. There's a conversation course. You can start immediately after that. Okay, let's see. Sonia says, have you ever tried to get a sponsor with a section of the Korean government? So Korean government has a tourism arm, and I've been contacted through other companies that work with the tourism arm to try to get promoted videos from me, but never directly from the government. I don't think they directly work with content creators. I think they only do it through production companies because they don't want to deal with like having a government employee that has to email a YouTuber and give ideas. They just want to pay money to a third party that handles, you know, planning the videos, designing it, scheduling everything, contacting with the YouTuber, making a contract. So I've been contacted by those groups a few times, but they've never given me anything I was interested in. They'll say like, hey, do you want to do a tour to this city? And basically you go to a city and there are restaurants that pay them to be sponsored in these videos. And they'll prepare like a course where they take you to different historic spots or different famous areas or something, whatever. And then sprinkled in there will be paid promotions from restaurants or events or things that are in the area that paid that third party to be also featured in those videos. And then they pay me a portion of that, not the whole amount. It'll be like some small fraction of that they're getting paid in order to make a video, which is free to me. I get, I'm explaining these details. I don't know. Maybe someone out there cares how this works. They would say, hey, we'll give you, we'll pay for your food. We'll pay for your transportation. All you do is show up, film a video, do anything you want. You don't have a script, do whatever you want. Just film this experience. And we'll also pay you like $200 or something like that. But I've turned all of those down because that's not really what my channel does. I don't let myself be taken somewhere else and then tell people this is a good thing to do. I would rather work directly with someone and be like, hey, I like this area. Can you help give me resources and money so that I can make this kind of video featuring this area? Would be cooler, but I don't think the government does that sort of thing directly. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm going to read some of these sentences. Young has the first sentence. 손으로 먹지 마세요. Perfect, Young. Okay, now let's see some of the other ones. 손으로 먹지 마세요. Yes. 손으로 먹지 마. Yes. 손으로 먹지 마세요. Yes. 먹지 마세요. Yes. Yes. 먹지 마. Yes. 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 키. 손으로 먹지 마세요. Yes. 손으로 안 먹어요? You don't eat with your hands? Okay, Heck, yeah, hello there says, don't you eat with your hands? Which is a very nice sentence. Okay, 손으로 드시지. Oh, okay. So if you want to use the verb lexica, what you're thinking of is 드시다. So you could say 드시지 마세요. Yeah. This originally does come from 들다. So I kind of get where you got the 들 part from, but it's never used in that form. It's always used as the honorific form 드시다, for to eat or to drink. Okay, let me give you the sentence. No one really knows this, but I actually schedule when, like at what time I want to be at a certain point in the lesson. Like, oh, by 2:10 I want to be here. By 2:30 I want to be down here. I never keep it. I'm way off already. I should have already been like halfway through the lesson by now, but it's okay. As long as we're learning. Okay, this is casual. 손으로 먹지 마. 먹지 마 or 먹지 마세요. 먹지 마요. Anything like that. Don't eat 손으로. Using your hands, or more naturally, with your hands. So don't eat with your hands. Now, some food you do eat with your hands, but like pizza, you shouldn't be eating pizza with chopsticks. 젓가락으로 먹지 마세요. 피자를 젓가락으로 먹지 마세요. You could use something like that. Don't eat pizza with chopsticks, but let's see, what would be something you don't want to eat with your hands? Oh, ramen. 라면을 손으로 먹지 마세요. Don't eat ramen with your hands. That would be disgusting. Even if your hands are really clean, don't do it. Anyway, 손으로 먹지 마. Don't eat with or using your hands. Next sentence. I'll give you this one. I'll give you this one. I feel a little nicer now. Okay. 자동차, a car. So using a car or by car. 미국을 여행했어요. 여행하다, to travel. So I traveled 미국. I traveled America using a car, literally, or I traveled America by car. 자동차로 미국을 여행했어요. So I traveled America by car. Now, I should note, and I know I just said this before, when you're using a vehicle like a train or a car or whatever like that, or the mode of transportation, although you can say by car, by train, by bus, anything like that, it's actually more common not to say by a vehicle, by a mode of transportation. And it's more common to just say that you took that method of transportation to go there. So you can use 타다 to take a vehicle and you use it as like 타고 가다 if you're going somewhere, or 타고 오다 if you came here. So you can say 자동차를 타고 갔어요. I went, literally I took a car and went. So I took a car there. You can say that instead. But in this case, the sentence is simple. It's not really saying I took a car to travel America. You're just saying I traveled America by car. So it's okay. But in other uses, you're going to use this instead. 타고 가다 or 타고 오다. Let's see. I'll do this one. Okay. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. You know what? I'm sick of it again. I want you to finish this sentence. I don't want to finish the sentence. Tablet PC. So this is a tablet PC. So what did you do using a tablet PC? Or what will you do? What do you want to do? Or what could you do? Or what are you asking someone? Using a tablet PC. While you're thinking of a sentence to finish this, I'll tell you a funny story. Are you familiar with the word PC방? So, you know, PC room, like an internet cafe, right? As we'd say it in English. PC방 sounds like PC, right? That's how you say PC. But there's a word in English that's also pronounced as PC, and that is fish, right? If you're saying the English word fish in Korean, and, you know, Korean doesn't have an F, Koreans would pronounce this as PC, PC. So there's a really stupid joke that I heard 20 years ago, and I still say it. It's cringy, but it's fun. What's the word for fish in Korean? Well, the kind of fish that's alive, swimming around, is called 물고기. Notice that it's spelled as 물고기, but it's pronounced as 고기 with a double 기역. So 물고기. 물고기. Sometimes I heard other kids call it at the time. It's not a really funny joke, but I think it's cute. I do it. I call them 물고기방. So literally fish room, PC방. So I say, you know, if someone asks about PC방, sometimes I'll jokingly reply and I'll swap the word with 물고기방. And they'll be like, they'll think about it for a second and then they get it. They're like, oh, that's horrible. Or if they don't get it, you can just say PC, like that, and they'll get it. Because everyone knows the word fish. So, yeah. Okay, hopefully that gave you plenty of time to write some sentences. Let's see how everyone finishes. 국을 손으로 먹지 마세요. That's right, Leah had a good example. Don't eat your soup with your hands. 피자는 손가락 음식이에요. Is finger food. That's not how you say finger food, but I get what you're saying. I really appreciate the sentence. 오늘 수업 들어요. Okay, Keith? 오늘. Small typo, you want to use 오, but yes, your sentence is good. 태블릿 PC로 한국어 공부해요. Nice lexica. Okay, let's see the other sentences. Small. 유튜브를 봐요. I watch YouTube. Roblox 하고 있어요. I'm playing Roblox. Okay. Yeah, small, that's right. PC, spelled like that. But pronunciation-wise, it's practically the same. Yeah, Mikey, fish meat. There's a funny story about that. The word fish meat, 물고기, originally did mean just meat so it would have been fish, I believe. Like fish that you eat as well. And then the meaning changed and the meaning for 생선 also swapped. So it's kind of like there's a little bit more to it. This is like the oversimplification version. There's more details to it that I forgot. But if you search that, you'll find it. I think there's a post someone made about it on Reddit like 10 years ago. PC로 영화 보고 싶어요. Nice. PC로 한국어 팟캐스트를 들어요. Yes. 영상을 봤어요. I watched a video. 검색했어요. I searched. 자주 영화를 봐요. I often watch movies. Nice. Computer room? Oh, you mean the aquarium? Sure, you can make that joke. You 수족관. You can say, oh, you're talking about the aquarium. They'll be like, what? PC방. PC가 있는 방이잖아요. And they'll be like, ha 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 ha. And then they block you. You'll never hear from them again. 숙제를 할 거예요. 오케이? 옷을 주문해요. Nice. 영화를 봐요. Nice. 2시간 동안 영상을 봤어요. I watched a video for 2 hours. Mikey says, I saw a North Korean video. The kids say they ate 물고기. That would be weird because the meaning of 물고기, meaning fish, deviated from before North and South Korea split. But it's possible that it's a dialect that it had split before but remained in North Korean. That would be interesting. I don't know. I'll believe you. I mean, I can't question you because I'm never going to go there. Unless, of course, they open up, which I don't think they would. Okay. Tablet PC. So a tablet PC. 수업 듣다 is to take class. 수업을 들어요. So 듣다. Notice that it conjugates for this 듣다 as 들어요. So I take classes on my tablet PC. I listen to classes or take classes. So I take classes on my tablet PC. 태블릿 PC로 수업을 들어요. There's one more thing I want to point out with the sentence though. This is not related to the lesson, but here's a pro tip. Here's something you've never heard before, I guarantee. You see this letter at the end, 시옷. Now, according to sound change rules, you probably already know this. This at the end of a syllable, when it doesn't have anything after, gets pronounced as a 디귿 sound because there's no way to pronounce 태블릿 like that. So 태블릿 is how it's pronounced. But there's a reason why it's written like this. Anytime you see this letter at the end of a word completely, not in the middle of a word. Now, if it's in the middle of a word, there's actually a term for this. It's called 사이시옷, literally in between 시옷, which is this letter. That's not. If you see this letter in the middle of a word, it has a different meaning. It actually means 의, the possessive marker, which is like apostrophe S. But if you see it at the end of a word like this, 99% of the time, it is it means that this originally was a foreign word, usually English, that ended with a T letter. Just a little pro tip. So anytime you see this, you can immediately think, oh, why, like, don't think of it as a Korean word. Immediately think, what word is this supposed to sound like in English? Most likely it's going to be English. So 태블릿, you might see 태, what's 태? Is this the Hanja for thick? 태, I know that. 불, what's 불? Is this supposed to be 불? Is this a typo? Big fire, lit. No, as soon as you see this at the end of a word, completely at the end of a word, again, not in the middle of a word, in which case it's used to mean an apostrophe S, it's for sticking words together. But at the end, it means this word was originally a word from a foreign language, probably English, that ended with the letter T, and that's how it's written. So you're never going to see a foreign word, ever, that ends with this. And anytime someone writes a word and they end it with this, I know immediately that person's a Korean learner. Koreans would never do this. So it's just like, it's kind of like a subconscious thing that when you see this, you think, oh, foreign word right away. That's not the only thing for identifying foreign words, but I think that's one of the biggest. Because in English, we have a lot of words that end with that sort of T sound, right? You know, internet. Also, they write it with that same letter at the end. Yeah, tons of words that end with that, so that's how they will write them when they write them in Korean. Okay. Let's do one more. Actually. Okay, 돈을 모으다 is to save up money. 돈을 모으다. So 돈을 모을 거예요. I will save up money. Using what? Or through what? By means of what? will you save up money? Make a sentence. It doesn't matter if you already did the other two, don't worry. No, there's no pressure. Just make up anything, come up with a sentence, finish this sentence. So I'm going to save up money with using whatever. Yeah, tablet PC would be an iPad or something. Yeah, Young, there are Korean words that end with that, but most of the time when you see a word, if it's not one syllable, like there are a lot of one syllable words that end with that. And again, that's not the only time that it's used at the end. There are other uses for putting that at the end, such as making the sound stop. Like if you're making a shout, like if you want to say ah is shouting, but ah is like a it's like a really quick shout, like when you just realize something, like uh-oh, kind of like that, or ooh. You'll see at with that letter. But besides that, when it's an actual word, like a longer word, like 2 syllables or 3 syllables or more, that's when it's going to be the foreign word. That's also like s at the end of a word. Yeah, though that will be, there are, yeah, I'll just say yeah, because you don't really need to get too technical. That's another way you can identify. There are certain syllables that are usually not used in Korean, and that's one other way to identify it. But this one's an easier way to identify since it's just one letter. 지갑으로 돈을 모을 거야. I'm going to save up money with my wallet. I guess so. You put it in your wallet. 은행으로 buy. Okay, with the bank. 월급으로. Okay, with the money from last month's wages. 요리를 하는 곳으로. Through cooking at home. I'm going to save up money. Lexica. It's a very creative sentence. EREI says, is there a study guide for naming the syllables? Yes, there is. I have a full cheat sheet. Let me link those in the chat as well. Let's see, where are my cheat sheets? There you go. Okay, I posted a link in the chat for my cheat sheets. Yeah, and click on that. They're free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. There are 6 cheat sheets, 100% free, and one of them is all about the alphabet with all the names of the alphabet letters, the stroke order, and tips for reading and writing. 코인으로 모을 거예요. Good luck with that. Lexica, the story says, I felt that, Lexica. 외식 안 하기로 돈을 모을 거예요. So you would have 안 하는 걸로. Or you don't necessarily have to use this with 으로. 아르바이트로. You can just do 아르바이트로. You don't need to do 아르바이트로 해서. You can just do 아르바이트로 or 알바, short. 영화를 보는 것으로. I'm going to save up money. 보는 것, since it's saving, since it's a noun now. 보는 것, not 보는. 보는 것으로 돈을. You're going to save up money by watching movies at home. Okay. As opposed to 영화관에 가는 대신. Instead of going to the movie theater, sure. Okay, so let me give you an example. 과외 is private tutoring. 과외로. So by private tutoring, 돈을 모을 거예요. 돈을 모으다 is to save up money. So I'm going to save up money through or by doing private tutoring. So I'm going to save up money by private tutoring. 과외로 돈을 모을 거예요. Megan, I almost spit out my drink. 오빠의 돈으로 돈을 모을 거예요. That's good. Okay. How am I going to save up money? With your money. That's how I'm going to save it up. Okay. So now let's go over the second and last form for today. And that is 가지고. Now, this is not 가지고 that is used when you're connecting sentences together. Like, 해 가지고, 먹어 가지고, like that. That's a different form. Although this has the same origin as that form. This is why most intermediate learners that I encounter actually don't know this, because they think that it's a different form and they either misunderstand it or they just overlook it. This form works a little differently. You take a noun and then you attach the object marker after it, followed by 가지고. Okay, there are a few things we have to talk about. This isn't as simple as just giving you this and saying it's the same as 으로. This has a little bit different usage. So, first of all, this comes from the same thing that the 가지고 grammar form comes from. This comes from the verb 가지다, also shortened to 갖다. Now, 가지다 or 갖다 means to take. It means to have or to carry something. Literally, this is a regular verb you're going to use all the time. 가지다. So it literally means 가지고. It's 가지 plus the 고 ending, meaning and, like you're doing something. And it means taking the noun or having the noun or carrying the noun, literally. So in this way, by meaning taking the noun or carrying it or having it, in this way it's used to mean with or using or by, just like 으로. Although it doesn't have all the other meanings that 으로 has, but it does mean using like 으로. Again, by taking it, by having it, by carrying it, that implies that you are doing something with it. You are using it. You're doing something by whatever it is that you're holding or having or taking or carrying, like that. That's how it means that. Okay, I'll leave this up for a second, but we have to go over a few caveats. I almost said caviar. Okay. What would be the difference between making money and saving money? A lot of people don't know the difference between that. Making money is making it, right? You earn it, you work to get it. Saving it is not spending it. So it's making it, but with the purpose of holding on to it, not focusing on just the action of it coming in, but the action of the money coming in and holding on to it. That's the difference between saving and earning. So you can earn money by doing private tutoring. You can save money by doing private tutoring, but if you earn it, it only implies that you're getting it. If you save it, implies that you're going to keep it after you get it for a while, for some purpose, maybe until you've gathered enough money to buy something with it, like a cake, like that. 돈을 모으고 있어요. Cake 사려고 돈을 모으고 있어요, 지금. I have $10, so I'm saving up money because I'm going to buy a cake. So anyone who donates, let me know if you want to add to the cake fund. Oh my God, thank God Ad Astra didn't add to the cake fund. That would be, I would have to buy like a wedding cake if he, $50 toward a cake fund. There's no cake I could buy that would cost that much. Cakes are like $20 for like a full cake, maybe $30 for a fancy one. Oh, Megan, so you don't need hada in this case since you're saying I'm just earning money with private tutoring. Like you wouldn't need to say by doing it. You can just say by or with. So I'm making money with tutoring right now, like that. Or by tutoring. You could say I'm making money by doing tutoring if you want. It's just a different nuance. You can do different nuances in Korean just like you can in English. But it's not like one's right and one's wrong. It's just one is going to have this nuance and the other one has a different nuance. We can start the caviar fund. Okay, well, in that case, then Ad Astra should have said that goes to the caviar fund because caviar is expensive. I've tried caviar in my entire life twice. Once was because it was served to me on crackers. It was marvelous. The other time was for my birthday. My mom bought me a small jar of the cheapest caviar that you could buy. It was like $20 a jar for like real think it was like Tobiko. It was some cheap type of caviar, and it was fantastic. I loved it. It's just too expensive to enjoy it. Like, I could spend all the donations today and get like a cheap jar of caviar like this big from the store. It's like, it's not worth it. It's just too expensive. So I've never bought it though with my own money. And put caviar in the PC room. Yes. Okay. So there's more we have to learn, because if you see kajigo after a noun, it doesn't mean that it's going to mean this usage, using or with or by, because as I just said, kajigo is also just from the verb. It's also just from the verb kajida, meaning to have or to take or to carry. So you might see something with kajigo and it doesn't mean this. For one, you could just use it to say, like kajigo kada, which is the regular way to say to bring something, like kajo kada, to bring something somewhere, to take something somewhere, kajo oda, to bring it here. Or you could just see it as literally meaning kajida. So himang, hope, kajigo, so have hope, and 노력하세요, and try. So have hope and give it a try. You know, just have a little hope and try. That sort of meaning. This doesn't really mean try using your hope. It just means literally kajida, have hope and try. So if you see kajigo, it also could just mean kajigo. The good news though about that is that our usage for meaning using isn't so different than the literal meaning of kajida. So if you see something, just think about it for a second. Is this like a literal meaning, or does it not mean literally doing something? In that case, oh, maybe it means using. So just kind of think about that when you're trying to understand it. This is one of the reasons why I think this form isn't taught right away. Most people wouldn't know it until you get to an advanced level, because it's not like a really quick concept to teach or master, because you also have to know kajida in the first place. Now, that sentence I gave you, you couldn't change it to himang으로. It wouldn't make any sense to say himang으로 노력하세요. Try with hope. It doesn't really make any sense. So in that case, you have to use kajida, since it's literally just meaning kajida. So just keep an eye out for that. Now, 가지고, just like the 해 가지고 grammar form, can also be shortened to just 갖고. You'll see both. So something 가지고 or something 갖고, both are used. Okay, so when would you use 가지고 instead of 으로, or vice versa? Well, the first thing you should know about 가지고 is, just like the 가지고 grammar form, 가지고, meaning using or with or by, is only for informal speech. So do not use this in your formal speech. Don't use this when you're meeting older people for the first time, or even don't use it when you're meeting new people for the first time at all. Unless they're like really young and you're trying to be funny, or you're trying to be really casual right from the beginning. Don't use this when you're meeting new people. Don't use this in any sort of polite situation. It's not rude, but it could be a bit too casual to be informal right from the get-go. So it's only used in speech. You're not going to be seeing this in books. It's not going to be in an example sentence in a textbook, because it's only informal. You will see people chatting it to each other. You'll hear people using it, but again, it's only going to be in informal situations. So that's the biggest deal. That's the biggest difference. Uro, however, can be used in any speech level. You can use uro in slang. You can use it in regular casual speech, informal speech, formal speech. Uro has no nuance of being formal or informal or anything like that. It's just straightforward, using or with or by. 가지고, though, only has an informal nuance. So keep that in mind. Again, not rude, but not formal. And okay, I'll leave this up for a second, but there's one more big difference when you can't use this. Lexica says, take that $50 to Paris Baguette and get a mango coconut cake. They have that? I've never seen that. That actually sounds kind of good. Is it a new item? Lady says, I got caviar once from the food bank. I gotta try being homeless. That sounds incredible. That's actually really nice if they can get that. I mean, you know, if you don't have anything, you got to get some things. That sounds like a really nice treat. Yeah, I've only had it twice, and both times it was given to me. I've never bought it with my own money. FSBS. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Sue Amazing. Can we think of the ko and kajigo like the ko? And it is the ko ending. Yeah, it is literally the ko ending. This form is not actually a separate grammar form. It's actually literally just kajida. But it gets used that way so much that it is in the dictionary. You'll find it, but it's still used quite literally. And we'll talk about that also. 중급 레벨이 되었어요. Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, you want the cheat sheets? Let me send those to you again. I think the command is only all the commands, I think I'm the only person who can activate those. Okay, so another thing you have to keep in mind is, although this is technically its own grammar form, it still is literally just from kajida, and it literally just means having or holding or carrying. So this has the nuance of actually taking something or actually holding it or physically using something. And this nuance of physically using something or actually holding it or taking it doesn't exist for uru. Because of that, there are situations where you can use this form but not uru, because they don't have the same nuance. I'm going to leave this up for a second, and I'm going to give you an example. Just erase this. So I just want you to know it's not an equivalent. It's not like you can just swap one and think, oh, if I swap this, I'll sound more native. I'll sound more natural. They won't expect me to know this grammar form. No, there are times when it's going to be wrong because this actually has a usage that uru does not. 그걸 means 그것을. So it's the object marker plus 그걸. 그걸 갖고, so 가지고, literally holding or taking or using that 뭐해. So what are you doing using that? So what are you doing with that, right? You know, you can translate using also as with. So 그걸 갖고 뭐해? Like, what are you doing with that? So if you see someone holding like maybe they have like a weird device or something and you're like, oh, what are you going to do with that? 그걸 갖고 뭐해? Or maybe they're like holding like a big pile of dirt and you're thinking they're probably going to throw it. You know, you say to a kid, 그걸 갖고 뭐해? Like, what are you doing with that? This actually implies, and it can imply, this actually can imply that the person is physically holding something. They're actually using it to do something with it. You cannot switch this sentence with 로, because the meaning changes. Grammatically, you can make a sentence, but you get a different meaning. 그것으로 or 그걸로. If you used 로, you would get 그걸로. 그걸로 뭐해? Also means what are you doing with that, but it doesn't imply the person actually has it. It just means what are you going to do using that? Like, are you planning to put the the ball of dirt on the ground and make a castle? Are you going to use it to do something? It doesn't imply that they're physically holding it and going to use it to do something. And if you were to say 그걸로 뭐해, it's kind of like, what are you going to do using that? The nuance of 로 is different than the nuance of 가지고. And there's a really simple way to explain this. If the sentence only sounds the most natural when you use the English word with, then 갖고 or 가지고 might be a better choice. And this is not a 100% guaranteed way to know this, but I found it works pretty well. In English, we use the word with, implying that someone's like holding it in that sort of meaning. Like, what are you doing with that? What are they going to, what are you going to buy with that? Any sort of with meaning kind of implies that it's close to the person who's using it. This is just a nuance difference versus using is just kind of like in general. It's just out there, something that you're utilizing. That's the means by which you're doing something. You're using a car. Whereas this kind of implies that it's close to the person using it. So it has more of the feeling of like you're physically doing something with it. So if you want to emphasize that someone is physically using something to do something, in English we would say with more often. And in Korean, they would say 가지고 or 갖고 more often. Again, this is when you can. If you can't use 가지고 or 갖고 for like more formal speech, then you can't do this. But when you can for regular everyday speech, this is going to be more natural in these situations. 그걸로 뭐해 has a different meaning than 그걸 갖고 뭐해 or 가지고 뭐해. And I have another example of that as well. I have a longer example of that coming up soon. I just want to give you this right now so you can think about it, and then I'll show you another example in a second. So yeah, this form is not as simple as just swap it for udo. There's another thing also we'll have to learn in a bit. But okay, first let me do some example sentences. Okay. 신문, newspaper. 신문을 가지고. Again, you don't need to think, oh, is this being used to mean using or is this meaning having? Just think of it as having. Think of it as 가지다, literally, and you'll be okay. So you're holding a newspaper and you 걸 mirror, 닦다, to wipe or to clean. So you wiped the mirror holding a newspaper. Think of it like that. And then in English, you can translate this as with or using. So I wiped the mirror using a newspaper, or with, as in I was holding it with a newspaper, right? 신문을 가지고 거울을 닦았어요. There's another thing we have to talk about, unrelated to the lesson, but 닦다, to wipe, is actually pronounced as 닦다. Believe it or not, it gets pronounced like every single time by everyone as a double tigat letter, even though it's not spelled that way. That's how it gets pronounced. Does it have to be? No. Does it? Yes. Pretty much always. This is not going in the live stream, so this is just a bonus you guys get for watching this live. But if you heard me, I said 닦았어요. I didn't say 닦았어요. No one is going to say 닦았어요. It sounds weird, honestly. 닦았어요. So you'll hear 닦다 100% of the time. Like not even 99%, I'm just going straight. 100%, always people are going to say it like that. Okay. 거울, mirror. So 신문을 가지고. So holding, in this case, using or with newspaper. 거울, a mirror. 닦았어요. I wiped the mirror or I cleaned the mirror using or with a newspaper. 1 second up and I'm going to wipe it off. Yeah, Small says, I took newspaper and wiped the mirror. It has a different context. Different nuance. And I have another example that'll share that a little bit better as well. But the nuance of saying 신문으로 거울을 닦았어요. It's fine. I wiped the mirror using newspaper. But 신문을 가지고 거울 닦았어요 makes it more personal, like you're physically holding it, you're wiping it using the newspaper. Kind of like what Small says, I took newspaper and wiped the mirror. It has the actual nuance of physically taking and holding something and using it to do it. In that way, it means using, but the nuance is totally different. It's not just saying the method by which I wiped the mirror was the newspaper. Like I utilized newspaper to wipe the mirror. Sure. Like, how did you wipe it? Oh, 신문으로 닦았어요. I wiped it with newspaper. That's fine. But this implies you were actually like holding it and wiping it, like you did it. And it just has a more nuance of the actual physicality of the action. So it's a small difference in nuance. You might be thinking, well, which one should I use? It's up to you. The thing about nuance in Korean is that you can pick how you want to sound in Korean. There is no right answer for like, should I use this grammar form? Should I not use this? It's how you want to sound. And you get to pick, which makes it harder, I know. But, okay, let's do the next one. 가지고 Okay, 이것들을, so these things, 이것들, these things, 가지고, so using, holding, having these things, 무엇을, what? 만들다, to make, 만들 거예요. So what will you make using these? 이것들을 가지고 뭘 만들 거예요? So what are you going to make with these? Like, you're making something physically holding these. So you're going to take these and make what? What are you going to make taking these? That's not a good sentence, but so you're making what with these, basically? What are you going to make with these? 이것들 가지고 뭘 만들 거예요? What will you make using these? I'll leave this up for just a minute. Then I have a couple more sentences. Green Mind said formal would be 그것을 가지고 뭐 하세요? Yeah, you wouldn't use this for formal speech. However, Green Mind's sentence is actually not formal. The 하세요 ending is not a formal ending, it's an honorific ending. So it can be used in any level of speech. That would be, though, a polite way is what Greenland's implying. By formal, I think if you wrote polite, your sentence would be completely correct. 그걸 가지고 뭐 하세요? You could say that. Now, the level of your speech doesn't quite match because 가지고 is like informal. It's definitely not especially polite, but it's not rude. So things that aren't rude, but they're informal do often get mixed together with honorifics, which again can be polite, but not necessarily formal. So that sort of sentence is possible. Less common though, because 가지고 in itself has like a less polite and informal sound. So you typically don't mix it with formal speech, but there are other forms that are also informal that do get mixed with honorifics all the time. So yeah, it's not wrong. It just could be better. Why is it 뭘 instead of 뭐? It's 뭐 plus the object marker. So the object marker, this one, when it's attached after a word that ends in a vowel, it can in speech, in informal usage, become this. But there are some words in which it's fine to do that all the time. 뭐 is one of them. 뭐, 뭘, both are fine. It's not considered to be informal. It just means 뭐를, 무엇을, 뭘. It's 뭐 plus the object marker. It's okay. It's just a shortened way of saying motor because people don't say motor. It's hard to say. So more often you'll see people combine it as 뭘, but it's the object marker here at the bottom. 이것들을 가지고, so using these, taking these, with these, 뭘 만들 거예요? What will you make? So what will you make with these? See, is this the sentence? Yes, okay. 상추 is lettuce. 상추를 가지고, so using lettuce, taking lettuce with lettuce, 김치를 만들다, to make kimchi. Now there are other ways to say making kimchi, but this works. 김치를 만들어 볼까? So should we try making kimchi using lettuce? And there are types of kimchi that use different vegetables, like lettuce. Now, it's not going to be the same type of kimchi that you would normally eat. There is kimchi made with cucumbers. There's kimchi made with all sorts of stuff. 상추를 가지고 김치를 만들어 볼까? So should we try making kimchi with lettuce, as in 가지고, like taking the lettuce, and we are physically using the lettuce with the lettuce, doing something directly, right? It's not just that you're making kimchi and the ingredient is lettuce, but it's you're actually putting the lettuce yourself and making kimchi with it. So it has a different nuance of like physically doing something. 상추를 가지고 김치를 만들어 볼까? So should we try making kimchi using or with lettuce? How about we take some lettuce and make kimchi? That would be a really nice translation. Again, the same meaning, but a different nuance. The next sentence, though, I have for you will be another example where it's more natural to use 가지고 than 으로. So amazing. Yeah, you could. Because it's like if you were to take it, even if you don't have it right now, if you take it and do something with it, that's okay. You don't have to be holding it in your hand. You can imply, what if you held this in your hand and made something? That's fine too. Kai says, for udo, it would be like, what are you using that for? Versus 가지고, what are you doing with that? So the nuance of udo, actually, udo doesn't have any sort of nuance other than that's the means or the method. Because udo has so many uses that people don't really think of it as one strong nuance. Because it's used for, as you know, it's used for toward, it's used for using, it's used for making decisions, it's used for going in like a direction of something, it's used for using something as someone working in the what's the word? In the position of some sort of job or whatever, like as this kind of person. It has all these different uses. People don't really think of it when they hear it. They just think of it as, oh, that's the using meaning, like that. They're not going into like, this is the nuance. So there really isn't a nuance for udo other than using. Like that's the means by which something happened. That's it. 가지고 is the one that has nuance. That's the one that's like taking something. So it has the nuance of taking that. Small had the good example before when he said like, like you're taking something and doing something with it. Like I took newspaper and wiped the mirror. That's the nuance of using 가지고. Instead of saying I wiped the mirror with, I wiped it using newspaper, you're saying I took newspaper and wiped the mirror. It's the same meaning. The sentence is the exact same thing, right? The nuance is the only thing that's different. The second one, I took newspaper and wiped the mirror, has the nuance of that someone's actually doing something with it directly. Whereas the first one doesn't have that nuance, even though the meaning is the same. You also are obviously going to be holding the newspaper to wipe it, right? Probably. But 가지고 directly says, no, the person's actually using it to do something. Like they got it to do something with it. It's just a nuance difference. As long as you get it, that's okay. If you're thinking, oh, I still don't understand when I would use one or the other, that's fine. You'll hear people using it, and just keep in mind that it's informal usage. So as long as you're not using it in any sort of extra polite or formal usage, you're going to be fine. Nuance mastery just takes a lot of exposure. So like, when is it okay to use this form? You just need to have a lot more exposure to it. It's not something you can just study and learn because it's not a literal difference in meaning as much as it is a difference in feeling. Here is a sentence where you would not use 으로, but you would use 가지고. 아기가, so the child, 공, a ball, 가지고 놀다 is to play. So 놀고 있어요. The baby is playing 공을 가지고, with a ball, using a ball. would you say in English, the child is playing using a ball? Or would you say the child is playing with a ball? You would say the second. And do you know why you would say the second? No, because you think, oh, it just sounds more natural, right? Is using a ball, does it even make sense? The child's playing using a ball. Doesn't really even make sense because the child's not making something using a ball. It's not like the means by which that they're doing something. They're physically playing, holding the ball, right? They're playing with it directly, with. That's the kind of nuance difference that uro and kajida have. Kajida literally means, in this case, 가지고, that you're doing something with it, like you're physically using it. So the sentence 공으로 놀고 있어요 grammatically makes sense, but it's wrong. 공을 가지고, because the baby's actually playing directly with it. They're not doing they're not developing a game that utilizes a ball in its mechanics. They're literally just holding and playing with the ball. So in this case, you would translate it as with the ball. So when you feel a sentence sounds way more natural with, and you can't really think about why, but using just sounds really weird, maybe, just maybe, this sentence will be better with 가지고 in Korean, because 가지고 means that sort of physical using something. You're holding it, you're carrying it, you have it, that sort of meaning. So the child holds a ball and is playing. You can think of it like that. The child holds a ball and plays. Or the child plays with a ball. You wouldn't say 공으로 놀고 있어요 in this situation. Okay, think about that for a bit. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I know it's hard for me to explain nuance difference of two grammar forms because you can use both of them, but there are some cases when you wouldn't use the other, and this is the reason why. Yeah, I studied using this book or with this book versus I'm going to take this book and study. Yeah, Small has a really nice way of translating it if that works for you. Okay. 아기가 공을 가지고 놀고 있어요. So the child is playing with a ball. But most situations, you can use either. There are a few situations where you would use 가지고 instead, but most situations you're going to be fine. But you're going to be fine in most situations using either. So don't worry about it too much. Okay. There's another meaning of uro, which we're not going to be covering today, but that means due to something. It's also used after a noun. So there are other grammar forms that utilize this, like uro inhe is another form that utilizes this sort of meaning, like due to something. But uro can also have the meaning of like due to, because of something. When you're talking about like the cause of something that happens, like the object of something that happened. So this is another meaning that uro can have. And 가지고 can also have sometimes. So 가지고, in addition to meaning uro using, can also occasionally mean uro due to. Specifically, this will be the cause or the object of something that happens. And this usage is less common, but I want you to be aware of it in case you see it. Oh, and I should note, this is for advanced learners. So if you're a beginner, do not worry about this at all, please. I'm not trying to make this difficult for you. You're not going to see this usage used very commonly. So if you are advanced, keep your ears open. If you're beginner, just plug your ears and go for like 5 minutes so I can write this down, and record yourself doing it and send it to me so I can laugh at it. Okay. Let's write this a little nicer. Okay. 긴장하다, to be nervous. So 긴장해서, because you're nervous. 실수하다, so to make a mistake because you were nervous. 실수한 걸, 것을. So the fact that you made mistakes because you were nervous, 가지고, taking the fact that you made mistakes because you're nervous, 놀리지 마요. 놀리다 is to make fun of, to tease someone, to mock someone. 놀리지 마요. So don't make fun of me taking or holding on to the fact that I made mistakes because I was nervous. Literally, or don't make fun of me for the mistakes that I made because I was nervous. Like, hey, I was just nervous, so don't make fun of... Like, hey, I was just nervous, so don't make fun of the fact that I made mistakes because I was nervous. You know, don't make fun of me for making mistakes when I was nervous. 긴장해서 실수한 걸 가지고. So taking the fact that I made mistakes while nervous, because I was nervous, don't make fun of me. So yeah, don't make fun of that, basically. Taking the fact that, in this case, the fact that comes from the meaning of 실수한 것, the thing that was making mistakes or having made a mistake. It's past tense. So the fact that I made a mistake, taking that, don't make fun of me. This can also be used, in this case, you could say 걸로, 것으로, due to. So due to the fact that I made mistakes because I was nervous, it has that meaning where you're marking like the cause or the object of something, but this sort of usage is less common. So if you see 가지고 and it's not used after a regular noun, it doesn't seem to mean using or with, it's probably this usage. So again, literally it's the same meaning. You are taking something and doing something with it. That thing can be a physical thing, like an object, right? You are taking newspaper and wiping the window or mirror, or it can be taking something metaphorical. In this case, the fact that I made mistakes because I was nervous and doing something with it. It's both. So just keep your eyes open to the fact that you might see 가지고 used after things that are more metaphorical and doing things with them that aren't physical per se. Hey, Nastaria! Nastaria says for the caviar fund. Well, I gotta write a separate entry then. How do I draw caviar? I think it's just a little jar. It looks like the cake fund, but there are no candles. Because the cake fund is a little bit fluffier and it has 3 candles. Oh, I should have 2 because I've been studying for 20 years. Let me change that. There we go. Now it's the cake fund. It has 2 candles. Okay. Nastaria for the caviar fund. You say for the question, is 가지고 only used for physical objects? Well, there you go. There is your answer. No. When it's not used for physical objects, it's used for metaphorical. Is that the right word? Yeah. Non-physical concepts. Like specifically, you'll see it used in this way with some sort of action, like 는 것. Literally doing some sort of action. So you'll have an action verb, stem plus 는 것, which will become 는 걸 or 는 것을 가지고. That's how you'll see it used in this sort of case. In which case, you know it's someone doing something and it's an action and it's not being used for the physical meaning of 가지고. So it's like taking the mistakes I made because I was nervous. You know, don't make fun of me. Because of that, due to that is what it means. And it's hard to translate this into English, but if you think of it again as actually taking something, it might actually be better. Like, don't take into account the fact that I was making mistakes because I was nervous. You know, don't take that and make fun of me for that. That's the sort of usage that it is. And it's hard to translate in English, but I think you get it. But if you don't, it's okay. This is an advanced form, an advanced usage of 가지고. Sue Amazing says, is this due to only used for bad things? Nope, it's not. When you're not taking objects, you're taking facts. Yeah. Keith, thank you. I'm always happy to see Keith's messages, and even happier when it's an orange message that's bright and has a donation amount next to it. Thank you so much, Keith. Earlier, I was jinxed by Kai. How did Kai jinx you? I figured if I buy you a cola, I can talk you. Well, I hate to say it, Keith, but I don't drink cola. fact, I've only tried Coca-Cola once in my entire life. That was because I don't like the smell of it. So that was funny. That the only time I've ever tried Coke in my entire life was a few years ago at the Talk to Me in Korean. After meeting with Talk to Me in Korean, Hyunwoo gave me a Coke and told me to try drinking it. So I had like one sip. He took me out to lunch. I had one sip. I didn't like it. That was the only time I've ever tried it. I've never tried Pepsi in my entire life. So yeah, I just don't like the smell of it. So I never tried it after that. I had a traumatic experience when I was like 3 years old. I think I was 3 or 4, where I was at preschool and the teacher gave all of us Coke or Pepsi or something like that. And I remember it in my cup and putting it up to my mouth and tasting it and feeling sick. So because of that traumatic experience, it followed me my entire life. I never once drank any of it. So yeah, I'm sorry, Keith, but your all your money just went to waste because I'm not going to buy a Coke with it. Is there something else you'd like me to spend it on? Ginger, I can get a ginger ale or something. That's good. Sprite, 7-Up, Chirsong cider. That's good. Oh, Jinx, because we were both promoting your beginner course at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I like soda. There are certain beverages I really do like, but I just never got into Coke. So I don't like the smell of it. That's the reason. I just don't like the smell of it. And it's funny because like I don't have anything against something that smells like roots, but because I like root beer, but that's different. I don't like the smell of Coke. It's just like, it's not what I want when I'm like eating something. I want something like more refreshing, more light. And Coke always feels like drinking, like it, I don't know, just the feeling I get from the smell is like I'm going to be drinking syrup. It just doesn't sound appealing, I guess. I've never had chikur. That's right. I've never had chikur. I've had chisa. Not chisae. 엄청 치사해. Yeah, Raymond. Raymond's saying something kind of funny. I'll write it down. Oh, let me just conclude here. So that is our lesson today. Let me take a thumbnail real quick. Oh yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. One of those will be the thumbnail. So Raymond wrote something chikur. Okay, but we need some context to this first. So in Korea, chicken, and there's something that goes with chicken. Mekju. Mekju's beer. Typically, Koreans will drink chicken with beer, and they won't drink the chicken, but they'll have chicken and they'll drink beer. It's just kind of like a common combination. People will go on picnics and they'll say, oh, I like doing chimek or whatever. That's what they're referring to, chicken and mekju. But people who don't drink will call this sometimes chikol, which is chicken and cola. Cola is any sort of Coca-Cola or Pepsi like that, or whatever brand you like. But there's a different word that I think I made this because I couldn't find it. I've never heard anyone use it, but I like using it. And this is saida. Saida is any sort of lemon or lime soda. Now in English, we would call this Sprite or 7-Up, but it could be any sort of variation on that. There are other sodas, so anything like that. So I call it chisa. However, chisa is already a Korean word, which is probably why no one made this joke before. 치사하다. Let me get a good definition for you before I make one up that's not going to be as good as what Neighbor already has. Okay. 치사 is like, oh man, that's low. That's a cheap shot. That's unfair. You like, that's cheese. Cheesy, cheese, like, you know, playing a game and someone's really low, does a cheap shot, that's super unfair. It's kind of a slang word, 치사하다. Oh, 치사해. Oh, 너무 치사해. But I jokingly will say that I like chisa, and I'm very chisa because I like chicken and saida. Anyway, it's a good word to know. Just don't call your friends that unless you're joking. You're the only human I know who's never tried Coke. Really? I mean, I said I've tried it. I tried it once with Hyunwoo, actually. He can vouch for me that I told him even before I never tried it. So he's like, you should try it. So I'm like, okay, for you, I'll try it. And I tried it. I took one sip. I didn't like it. I'm sorry, Hyunwoo. I know you told me that if I try it, I'll like it. I'll think about it later. I never did. I still hate it. Even before I tried it, I hate it. I knew I hated it before I tried it. Something like that. He says, personally, I like Pepsi, so I do that promote I heard that Pepsi is like the same thing, just with a little bit more sugar or something. I give up typing. Valeria says, can we use uro for unphysical object? Yeah, because uro has so many uses. But if you're talking about 희망으로 노력하, no, you wouldn't say that. You would say 희망을 가지고, because in that case, it's not 가지고 meaning using. It's literally 가지고 meaning 가지다, as in to have. 가지고 is just 가지다, to have. So it's used, you would just say 희망을 가지고 노력하세요. That's the normal way to say it. It's not using the using version of 가지고. That's kind of what I was explaining at the beginning, in that this form isn't really a grammar form. It's actually just the word 가지고 that gets used in this way as well to mean using or with. But it's always still the literal meaning of 가지다. Ayakata says, I'm watching you in my phone and I'm also in the TV watching pirate TV from North Korea. Oh man. Just, man, North Korea is so bad. I wish we would see the day when they would stop being so bad. We could go over there and have a nice, share some chisa together. But until then, they're just too chisahe. It's not going to work out. Sue Amazing says, is there a grammar form that's hard for you to explain? Every grammar form is hard to explain. Because I learned grammar forms originally the same way you're learning them, but that's not how I mastered these grammar forms. No one masters grammar forms by studying them in a book. You use books and lessons and resources like my lives and anyone's materials as kind of like looking at a recipe before you start cooking, but then when you actually make it, it's going to be different. You're going to have to maybe substitute some things. Maybe your measuring cup is a little bit different. You kind of you learn the rules just to kind of help get you going so you can know what you're doing. But in order to actually master it, you have to use it yourself and hear it used a lot so you can internalize that feeling. Because a lot of Korean it's not just grammar rules. You're not just going to go around thinking of grammar rules. Oh, should I say this form or this form? It's never going to happen like that. You have to have experience listening to it enough that you can feel, oh, in this situation, I feel like I should use this form. And I'm the same way as well. I started learning the grammar forms. I study with books, but ultimately you still have to go out and use it and hear it in order to be able to internalize it. Otherwise, it's just going to be a note in your book that you're going to forget in a year. Eminem Twix said, hey, Billy, did you ever have a TikTok account? I never did. And I personally don't like social media in general. I have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, an Instagram account. I use them solely for sharing links to videos I upload. I don't browse them. I don't care what's on them. I have a personal Twitter account, which I no longer use. I have a personal Facebook account that I solely use for sending messages to my friends. I use the Messenger. I don't like social media. I think it's kind of dumb, personally. That's a different discussion, but no, I never had a TikTok account. Mike E says, any opinions on the apps for dual subtitles? I'm not against subtitles. I'm against English subtitles for Korean content. If you have Korean subtitles that are their actual official subtitles for what the show is, just know that they're still not going to be 100% accurate to what the person's saying, but that's 100 times better than an English subtitle. So I'm okay if you want to use Korean subtitles while watching a Korean show, not English subtitles though. So dual subtitles to see English and Korean, I think it's pretty dumb. If you're pausing though every scene every time the subtitles change and reading the Korean and reading the English, that's fine. But if you're leaving it playing, your eyes are going to naturally go to the English. It's not going to help. So that's what I would be against. But if you have dual subtitles and you're hitting pause and reading the sentences both, that's fine. That's going to be helpful. It's like just sentence mining, whatever. That's not going to hurt you. That's fine. Hey, Kai. Wait, Kai, what is this for? It's not for the cake fund, so I got to put you separately down here as a separate donation. Kai, thank you. Wow. Number one, you say for missing the top of the hour because I was struggling with the differences in this lesson for some reason. No problem. Like I said, it's a beginner level topic that I know zero beginners who know this topic. So you are probably anyone who's watching who's a beginner who understood this lesson today. You're the only beginners. You're the very first to step on the moon, to understand this concept while you're a beginner. Seriously, I don't know anyone who knows this as a beginner. It's always like advanced speakers who will be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I think I heard that before. It's not something you're going to find lessons on because it's really not it's tricky, right? There's differences, enough differences that you're not going to learn it. You're going to focus on udo first and then learn kajida. Then learn kajigo. Kai says, number two, if you were trying to say that someone is your home, wait, someone is your home? They are my home. How are they my home? Do you mean is in your home? Okay, if you said someone is in my home, if that's what you're asking, you would just use ita to exist, and 집에 is the most common way to say they are at my house or they are in my home. You don't need to say 집 안에 있어요, like they are inside my house. And same in English, we don't need to say, oh, they are inside my house. You just say they're in my house, they're at my house. 집에 있다. Unless you're asking something else. She feels like home? Ah! You are my safe space. You feel like home. Well, there is an expression when you are somewhere that's not home, you want to say it feels like home, and they use the term 고향. 고향 is hometown. 고향, you can say 고향 같아. 고향 같아요. 고향 같아요. But this wouldn't be this is for a location. Or you can you try like a piece of pizza and you're like, oh, it's like 고향 맛이 나요. It tastes just like my hometown, just like where I'm from. 고향 같아요. It's like my hometown. But for a person, I don't know. You are my safe space. You feel like, I've never heard that talked about referring to a person. But let me ask, I happen to know a Korean person that I can ask. Give me a second. 들어와. 잠깐 들어오라고. 스위치 내려놓고. 아니 스위치 내려놓으라니까. 내려놓으라고. Oh my god! You got heavy. 무거워졌다. Jeremy. Do you have any idea? Oh my gosh, you're so heavy now. How would someone say in Korean that you feel really comfortable when you're around that person?
편안하다.
그냥 편안하다고?
안전한 예감이 들다.
안전한 예감이 들다고?
Oh
my gosh, I can't actually hold you. You're like way too heavy now.
And you almost dropped me.
Yeah, because you're too heavy. Okay, 자, 그래 인사하고 다시 스위치하러 가.
근데 지금 타이머 가고 있는 중이에요.
어.
스니퍼
그래.
기계 망했네.
One more second. Let me ask. There's one more Korean I can ask. She doesn't know. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I thought she might know, but she's like, So let me check. ChatGPT could be helpful in this situation. Let me check. I have an account. Sometimes ChatGPT can be helpful, but it's only helpful if you know Korean already. I would never recommend you use it for making sentences or anything like that because it's so dumb. But it can still be helpful for general things. So let's see. How can I say in Korean that someone makes me feel comfortable at home, like they're my safe space? Let's see what ChatGPT says. 너랑 있으면 집에 있는 것처럼 편안해. Yeah, it's just 편하다. 편안하다, 편안해. 편안한 느낌이 들어. Like what Jeremy said. 너랑 있으면 안전하고 편안한 느낌이 들어. Sure. 너무 편해. I think 편하다 is going to be your simplest choice. So comfortable. Let's see. You'll hear 편하다. You'll also hear 편안하다. 편안. 편하다 is more of a informal expression, but it's really common. 너랑 있으면 너무 편해. 마음이 편해. 그냥 너무 편하다고. Like you can express it a bunch of different ways. There are many ways you can say it. There's not one like say it like this, but you can do variations saying 편해. Like maybe when you're meeting with someone, 지금 너무 편해. 너랑 있으면 너무 편하다고. Like that. Like really comfortable, relaxed, at ease. I feel like I'm at home, that sort of feeling. And Jeremy also gave the same answer, but I can't think of anything else. I think that's probably your best bet. He says, we need a bar stool for Jeremy getting big. Yes, bar stool for Jeremy. We're trying to, I'm trying to help Jeremy get some muscles too. So he does, to earn time to play on his Switch. He likes playing Minecraft. So to earn time, he does exercise. So he'll do like push-ups, like 40 or 50 push-ups to get time to use his Switch. So we're trying to help him gain, muscles, but that at the same time, it makes him heavier. So yeah, it's hard to pick him up now. And I don't think my wife can even pick him up at all anymore, unless it's like this. She can't pick him up, like hold him like we used to be able to. I still can, it's just harder. In fact, Jeremy can actually pick up his mom. Jeremy can pick her up now, which is pretty crazy. He's gotten really big. 집 같은 사람? Small says just use 집 같은 사람 until it sticks. No, don't use that. You're like a house, bro. You're so like a house. That wouldn't be a compliment. Same with 집처럼 편해요. Like, if you are talking about a location, 여기가 우리 집처럼 편해요. Makes sense. This place is comfortable like our house, like my house. Sure, but you wouldn't say you are comfortable like my house. Like, doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, it was funny because he was jokingly trying to pick me up, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. But then he went over to his mom, and we're like, no, we're laughing, and he picks her up, and we're like, we're just like shocked for an hour after that. Like we didn't say anything. We're like, oh, he picked you up. Yeah, Nastaria says proof that people are still smarter than... The thing is, here's a rant. It's not... We do not have AI. Whatever we call it, I know it's called AI features, AI technology. What we have right now is not AI. What we have is... Basically, it's a calculator. If you type, a funny word, what would that be? 01134 in a calculator and turn it upside down, it says hello. The calculator's talking to me. It's artificial intelligence. It's not, there's no intelligence going on in a calculator. It's simply doing the things that it's programmed to do. And in the current model of artificial intelligence that we're using, it can't become intelligence. It's just becoming better at calculating words to say. So unless they do some new technology, we don't have, and we never will have, at least not with this generation, intelligence coming out of that. Because of that, I wouldn't recommend using any sort of AI tools for learning Korean. Now, it has its uses, but if someone says, Billy, should I use ChatGPT for studying Korean? My answer is going to be obviously no, because there isn't anything the beginner could use it for that would be useful. There are lots of things that me as a teacher can use it for, or an advanced learner can use it for, because we know when it makes mistakes. We can see the mistakes clearly and use the good stuff it gives us. It's fun. You can use it to make songs. You can use it to write poems and help you write emails. But at the end of the day, are you going to say, write me an email to send to my boss telling him that I'm sick and make it really short and polite? It'll give you a nice letter. At the end, you're still going to check it. You're not going to trust it because it's not actually a human. It might say the same sentence twice. It might give like a really weird word that you would never use, even if it's correct. If they ever make intelligence, if there ever is artificial intelligence someday, I'm not going to gatekeep that. I'm going to tell you, use that as fast as you can. I'm going to promote that. I'll be one of the first people to tell you, hey, it's ready now. But what we have right now, the path that they're going down for AI is not AI. It never will be. So that's my opinion on current AI technology. I've heard it called spicy autocorrect. Yeah, it's like the world's best autocorrect. It's amazing autocorrect, but it's not. It doesn't have any intelligence. There is no thinking. In fact, there is no remembering either, and there is no helping it. You can't teach it and have it update its database. It will still give the same wrong answer the next time to the next person who asks it. And it'll even give you wrong answers from years ago. Like I tested it with Korean questions in a video from like 2022 or 2023. I think beginning of 2023, I did a video about ChatGPT. And I've since recently, as a few months ago, went back and tried those questions again, and it still gets them wrong. So it's not learning. Yeah. I think using AI to write stuff for you teaches people not to think on their own. Well, yeah, although if you're using ChatGPT and you're aware of its limitations, I think it can be okay because you'll look at what it gives you. You'll think about it. Is this something I really want to use? Is this a good sentence? Did it say it awkwardly? And you can kind of take the good stuff that it gave you and still get some use out of it. Like I'm making a new series right now about sentence connectors in Korean. So I have all of my sentence connectors I wrote down from like all of the topics I've ever taught, put them all down. And then I asked ChatGPT, give me a list of all the sentence connectors in Korean. Half of them aren't even sentence connectors, but I got a couple that I forgot to include in my list. So I'm like, oh, cool. So it can still be useful. But if I had said, give me all the sentence connectors in Korean and made that as a list, this would be the worst garbage you've ever seen. So it can have its uses, but you have to know how to use it to get good stuff out of it. If you say this 편하다 to your wife, maybe she would say something. If you say you feel comfortable around someone, yeah, that's what it means. Sue Amazing asks, how do you study with 2 books? 책 2권을 가지고 using 2 books? Yeah. 어떻게 공부해요? For example, Korean Made Simple and Talk to Me in Korean books. Yeah, you can study with multiple books, but what I would recommend is pick one book or one course or one resource to be your main resource that you follow the topics, you follow the curriculum, and use other books to reference when you get to that topic. So I'll give you an example. If you're using my beginner course, which is free, the beginner course starts by teaching you the alphabet. But say you have another book that doesn't teach the alphabet. Well, ignore it for right now. Then my book teaches sound change rules. Say you have another book that teaches sound change rules too. Cool. After you finish this lesson, go to that other book, read their lesson on sound change rules, and you'll be like, oh, I get a little bit more now. I got some extra stuff I didn't get from this one, or vice versa. Use it as a secondary resource, but then go back to the main resource you're using. So in this case, the beginner course, go back there and then go to the next lesson like that. Use one at a time as your main resource and then use others as supplemental resources. Don't skip back and forth because they're a different order. You're not going to be able to build on anything. And any course will have thought about what things a student should know in order to get to this level. Like they'll think, okay, well, they're going to need this and this, so I'm going to teach it in this order because of this. We all have our reasons for why we teach things in different orders. Stick with one and use others as extra resources, but don't switch around. So you can do that with as many resources as you want. You can have 100 resources. Just pick one as your main resource. So if Talk to Me in Korean is your main, great. Whenever you get to a lesson, if after you finish a lesson, if you feel like, oh, I feel like I didn't really get it or I need some extra practice, then you go to another resource, that same topic, learn a little bit about that, and then go back to the regular resource that you're using. That's what you should do. Because if you go back and forth, it's gonna be way too much information. You're gonna get way too much stuff that you don't need yet. And I mean, realistically, there's no source, there's no resource, there's no company, there's no person that by themselves will bring you from no Korean level up to fluent. That doesn't exist because of how much material that would have to exist out there. Like even, I'm trying to think, let's take a fictitious company that has 1 million books. Let's say there's a company out there that has 1 million books. And they have books for less. They have lessons. They have, books that you can learn all the different types of grammar and all the expressions and idioms and everything. In order to actually get good at Korean, you're still going to need listening resources. So unless that company also makes Korean TV shows, podcasts, like hundreds and hundreds of podcasts that you can listen to, it's not going to work. And even if they do, you're going to still need real life stuff. So does this fictitious company also make hundreds and hundreds of interview videos and hundreds of books, right? You would need to have that sort of gigantic ecosystem in order to learn Korean solely through one resource. And I'm the same. I try to provide all of these things I'm mentioning, but it's not enough. You're going to need to have actual listening practice outside of your class materials. No matter how good your class materials are, it's not enough to learn Korean. Like you can't learn Korean inside of a course solely. You have to go out and get extra input from other places. Kai asks a question. Kai asks, what's the difference between 진짜, 정말, and 진짜로? Okay, 진짜 and 정말 can both mean really. Right? Really. However, 진짜 is only used in informal usage. 정말 can be used in formal or informal. I'll just write any. So it's not rude. It's not polite. It's just a regular way of saying really. You can use it when you're speaking respectfully. You can use it 정말 추워. You can use it casually. You can use it in slang. 진짜, though, you would not use it to mean really if you're speaking politely. 진짜 감사합니다 sounds awkward. You would say 진짜 고마워 or 정말 감사합니다. But you wouldn't say 진짜 감사드립니다. Like I'm so really, thank you so much, my sir. Like, it just doesn't match. So 진짜 is only for informal usage. 진짜 also has an additional usage that 정말 does not. 진짜 can also mean real, as in an adjective. By real, I mean not fake. Like if you have gold, the word for gold is 금. So you can have 진짜 금. That means real gold. 진짜 금이에요. It's real gold. 진짜 is the opposite of the Korean word 가짜. 가짜 means fake. So you can have 가짜 금, fake gold, right? 진짜 anything. A real something. You use it as an adjective directly before some noun. 정말 금 just means really, it's really gold. 정말 금이에요. Oh, it's really gold. Whereas 진짜 금이에요 can also mean it's real. Or you could just say 진짜예요, like it's real. Like if someone said, 아, 가짜예요? 진짜예요? Oh, 진짜예요. Is it fake? Is it real? It's real. Is that a real story? 진짜요. It's real. So it can mean both really or real, and 정말 cannot mean real like that. 진짜로. This 로 only does one thing, and in fact, it's the same thing for 정말로. It changes this into only being used as an adverb. So you weren't restricted whether you use this to say like it's really or it's a real something, but as soon as you attach 로, it's only going to be used as an adverb. You wouldn't say 진짜로 금. That would mean really, it is gold. 진짜로 금이에요. For real. So this 로 is kind of like saying for. So now it's for real. So it only can have the meaning of really now. 진짜로. Like someone says, oh, is that real? Oh, 진짜로. Yeah, for real. So it just has the meaning of making it into an adverb only. 정말로. Both 정말로 and 정말 can mean really. Since 정말 only means really anyway, you can use 정말 or 정말로 both to have the same meaning. But note that when you use it with 로, it's as an adverb. So if you're having a verb after it, then it's fine. If you want to say it is really, like it's really is, you can just say 정말이에요. Like it's real. I mean, sorry, not it's real because that's 진짜. Really? 정말이요. Really? 정말로. For real. It has the meaning of for real, which is again, it's only an adverb. Anytime you see the 로 after, it means now I am only an adverb. I'm not used as an adjective. I'm not going to be used directly with 이다. So you can't end the sentence with 이다 after you use this, because this makes it into an adverb, meaning you need to have some sort of verb after. So 진짜로 했어요. Like I really did it. I did it for real. But if you just want to say 진짜 or 정말 with 이다, like it is, yeah, it's really, then you would just use with 진짜 or 정말, not with 로. So yeah, again, 로 just makes it into an adverb. But that's it. That was a really messy explanation, but hopefully it kind of helped. Oh no, I erased some of the caviar. Caviar. Caviar is so, why is it so expensive? It tastes so good, but it's so expensive. 가짜 can't be used as an adverb. It can. Just like 진짜. 가짜 is the opposite. You can use it in the same way. Although you wouldn't use it as for fake, 가짜로, as that, if that's what you're asking. But you can say 가짜. Oh, I get what you're asking now. I get what you're asking now. No, you would use it to mean fake. So if you want to say 가짜예요, it is fake, or 가짜 something, fake something, you can use it as an adjective like that. But you wouldn't use it as like for fake or fakely or anything like that, if that's what you mean. Megan says, oh, you're talking to someone else, but you say you're looking for a Korean dictionary. A Korean dictionary that uses Korean. I mean, for online, Naver Dictionary is great, but you need internet access. If you are in Korea and you want a really small dictionary to look up words, I would recommend just buying like one of those little electronic dictionaries. These days they have really cheap electronic Korean dictionaries. Like they have Korean to English, and those ones also have built-in Korean to Korean dictionary because they're used by Korean people who are learning English. So they want to sometimes check the definitions of their own words. And it has Korean to English. It'll have English to English. It'll have English to Korean and Korean to English. All of those combinations, usually Japanese and Chinese as well. They're pretty cheap. They have some cheap ones. They're small. They don't need the internet. The downside is they won't have as many words as the online dictionary. They're not going to have like brand new slang words or maybe many slang words at all. It's more like a standard dictionary, but they're really fast. You don't need internet connection and they're not that expensive. So you might want to look into something like that. Paper ones are okay too, but the problem is just that they're so thick. You can't really carry around a paper dictionary in your pocket, but you could carry around an electronic dictionary in your pocket. So that's what I did when I was living in Korea for my first time. And every time I come back, now I just use Neighbor Dictionary, but originally before that existed, I would just use an electronic dictionary because I had some paper dictionaries, but they were too big. I never actually ended up using them in any real situation because when you really need a word, you don't want to like stop the conversation, open up like your bag, pull out like this thick dictionary, search around for a minute because you don't know the alphabetical order of the letters, find the word and then say it. It was too slow by that point. So Sue Amazing says, Billy, do you think Japanese politeness levels are harder than Korean ones? No. I think Japanese has a lot of politeness levels, but they're less strict than Korean is. Japanese, you can get away, like their standard, this is not a Japanese class, I'm not a Japanese teacher, but the Japanese standard mas form, or, des, like that. Sorry if my pronunciation is more Korean now. Des, mas, that sort of standard form is good. For like, it's kind of equivalent to the imnida form or the ieo form. It has like both. So you can use it standard to strangers. You can use it to when you're meeting new people. It's just a general polite form, whereas Korean has two separate forms that have different formalities in them. You can get away with more casual style Japanese if you're friends with someone, if you're close, but in Korean, you still have to pay more attention to the age, your relationship with the person before you can just suddenly drop to speak casual with them. So it's more strict in Korean. Japanese, though, has more rules to it. As I remember, there are more different verbs that you can use, more levels that are still in use, whereas Korean has fewer, but it's more strict. So I think the Korean one is harder, in my opinion. But again, I never really got above an intermediate level in Japanese on my best day. Like, basic, it was like conversational level. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I remember is that it wasn't as strict. Unless you're talking about like business use, in which case it was extremely strict. But besides that, if you're talking about like keigo, like really strict business Japanese, which even Japanese people don't know, that was stricter than Korean, but regular usage, it was much, much more relaxed in Japanese, how they use their politeness levels. Whereas in Korean, it's the same, it's like strict the whole way. Kai asks, when asking whether you speak a language, would 말 always be added to the language, or is it a formal or informal thing? Oh, so you're talking about 한국어 versus 한국말. So what Kai is asking is there is language 말 and there is language 어. So for example, 한국 for Korea or 일본 for Japanese, or it's not always going to be the country though. For some of them, it's the country. For others, they have a special name, like 영어 is English. 영 is not the country. So that sort of thing. So 한국어, 한국말. They are both the exact same meaning. This 어 comes from Hanja, I believe. Let me see if I can remember it. Wait, yeah, I think I got it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. This all comes from Hanja and it means 말. It means word. Or language. So this 말 also means word. It's the exact same thing. What's the difference? Well, 한국말, words that mean language that end with 말, sound a little bit more informal, but not slang informal, just less, not less polite, less official, like more spoken, more colloquial. So if you're writing a report, if you're doing something like official, like you're writing an official document, definitely use 한국어. However, that doesn't mean that this is only used in formal. That just means 한국말 has more of a colloquial, when I say colloquial, I mean like common conversation, your everyday conversation. This has more of an everyday spoken feel, and this doesn't. So you can use either. When you're talking with your friends, you can use either. You don't have to use 한국어 when you're doing formal stuff, 한국말 for your friends. No. But only use 한국말 if you're talking with friends or regular everyday situations, just general things up to a standard polite level, but not for like formal official usage. But this can be for any usage. I personally like the feeling of for languages more than 말. It flows off my tongue better. But you might hear some people prefer 말. Either one's the same. Now, every word with 말 doesn't have an equivalent with all. For example, 우리말, 우리나라말, 우리말, like that. You're not going to say all for that. But for languages, yeah, you'll hear all and 말, like 일본말, 일본어, 프랑스말, 프랑스어, 독일어, 독일말. Some of them, though, aren't used. You could hear 중국어, 중국말, but you're not going to hear 영말 for like 영어 for English language. So there's some you're not going to hear. But yeah, that's the difference. Use either one. I prefer this one, but that's not a right or wrong answer. That's just my style. Other people really prefer this one. Like 우리나라 말. You wouldn't use all as a word either. 말 is a separate word that means word or language, whereas all is only a Hanja syllable that can be attached as meaning a language. So you're not going to see all by itself. Okay, I'll answer questions for just another 5 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions you might have about Korean or whatever. Oh man, so I have a story. So this story is gonna destroy my chance of getting an Airbnb sponsorship. But every time I go to Korea, I book an apartment through Airbnb because there really isn't a choice. I wish I could say it's the best service, but it's really the only choice you have. Unless you are in Korea and you have a Korean bank account to pay someone through a Korean website, it's the only way you can find a place to stay unless you're going to stay at a hotel or something. So I use Airbnb. It's okay. I've had some good experiences with it, some not so good experiences, but no bad experiences. Except I tried to book an apartment for my trip that's going to be coming up. I'm going to be going to Korea in May. So I decided I want to book my hotel right now because why right now? Well, because right now is a good time to book for May because I'm going to be in Korea for a long time. I want to book in advance. That way I know that the room is going to be open for that time. And if I try waiting until later, I'll have fewer choices. So I booked a place a few days ago. I found a place. Location's okay. Room's okay. It's kind of expensive, but whatever. It's okay. So I booked it. The host had a lot of good reviews, all positive reviews. So I thought, cool. The host messaged me a day later and said, hey, thanks for booking. By the way, can you actually move to another room? Because, I think here's another room. All the rooms I have are pretty much the same. Here, can you move? So I asked him, I'm like, why? Is there something wrong with the room? And he's like, well, I have another guest who's actually going to be there during that time, which he didn't have the dates blocked off. So I knew that was fake. And I Googled it and it looks like it's a common type of bait and switch. So I quickly just canceled it. Fortunately, it hadn't been 48 hours yet, so I was able to immediately cancel. So that was my first bad experience on there. So just be careful if you book on Airbnb and they suddenly want to change the room. Airbnb last year added a law for Korea. So in case you're wondering, there is a new law they added last summer, I believe, that means in order to list an apartment on Airbnb, the host has to provide a license number that they are registered with the local, I can't remember, the government office, that they are registered to be an Airbnb, to be a rental. And if they don't have that number that they can provide, which confirms with the government that they're registered, they can't list anything on Airbnb. I think the hotels lobbied to get this so that they can make more money. But whatever. So that's the new law. So to get around this, I think some people, what they do is they list one place that they pay to get registered, and then they actually book, they have everyone funnel through that one listing to go to their other places, but that way they don't have to pay for them. That was my guess. Anyway, just be careful about that. If you see something fishy on Airbnb, just be careful. It's not always the best place to find a place to stay, but there really isn't another choice right now. Walker says, in Korea, every fish has its own language. That doesn't mean language. I know you're being silly, Walker. Yeah, the O at the end of fish means fish. It's a different Hanja. Keith says, wouldn't PayPal work for bookings? No, they do it with credit card for Airbnb. Although you can pay with PayPal for Airbnb, but it's not done directly through PayPal, if that makes sense. Raymond says, just booked an apartment. Just make sure that the apartment you get is the apartment that you're supposed to get, and that they didn't just move you to another apartment that's smaller. In this case, the guy messaged me and said, hey, how about this other place? It's the same. And I looked at the photos and it is not the same. It was missing a desk. It was missing a chair. It was missing a shelf. It was missing a little extra space that the other one had. And I'm sure it's not even as good as the apartment that he listed. It's just, I don't think he was trying to do it nefariously. I'm pretty sure he's just using it to funnel to the other apartments he has. But in that case, the apartment he asked me to move it to was a completely different apartment that wouldn't have what I would need to work while I was there. So yeah. Although all the other times I've had a decent experience, I had one kind of bad experience where the water didn't work and they didn't fix it. And they thought that I didn't know how to use the water in Korea. And it took me 6 days or 7 days before I even had water not water, but any sort of warm water. It was only freezing water in the apartment because they wouldn't believe me. And I kept replying to them like nicely. They're like, hey, do you know how to turn on the boiler here? And then they wouldn't reply for the next day. And I'd reply, yeah, I turned on the boiler. Oh, did you make sure to push it in this way and turn it this way? Because you have to wait. I'm like, yeah, I did that. Okay, well, how about making sure that you turn on the water for 5? So I finally replied to them. I was upset. I'm like, hey, I've been living in Korea for a long time. I've come to Korea like dozens of times. I know how to use a boiler. Please fix the water. And they finally sent a guy over who probably thought I was crazy. Immediately when he opened it up, he's like, oh, it's messed up. I see. Sorry. We'll fix it. And they fixed it and it worked. But besides that, most of my experiences have been good. But yeah, I did have that happen where someone was trying to do a bait and switch, and just be careful. Kai, not for cake. Belated top of the hour. Thank you, Kai. I think Kai has, it's actually enough to get an Adobe subscription. I think that's enough. Yeah. 25 is enough to get an Adobe maybe like just Premiere or something, a couple programs, and then have some cake while I'm doing editing. Belated top of the hour. I feel proud I actually came with a list of questions this time because I usually forget by the time class comes. That's true. You always have questions that you wish you would have remembered and you don't have them by the time you come here. Thank you. The one says, I'm still a bit confused when to use honorific speech. Is it true you only use it when you talk about someone you respect? Yes. And when you talk directly to someone you respect, use the 입니다. No. Honorifics are used for talking about whoever you're talking about. That person you're talking about can also be the person that's directly in front of you. Sure. But the 입니다 is formality. Formality has to do, formality and honorifics are a different topic. So formality, like 입니다 or 이에요 or 야, right? Like casual, regular, polite, informal, or formal. 입니다 being formal, 이에요 being regular, informal, and 야 being casual. This has to do solely with the person you're talking to. And that's a verb ending. That's the final conjugation of your verb. Honorifics doesn't have to do with a final verb conjugation. You can have honorifics that end with 입니다, 요, or 야. That doesn't matter because honorifics has to do with what you're doing to the verb. Specifically, you're adding this suffix to the verb, 으시, 다, right? The 으시 part makes it honorific. But this ending, whether you're going to conjugate it to like 으십니다 or 으세요, which is 에요, 이에요, or 으셔, which was the ya, casual version, that depends on who you're talking to. And this part, whether you use it, is referring to who you're talking about. So you can have a sentence like that ends with 으셔. That's casual speech because you're talking to someone who you wouldn't show extra respect toward, like your close friend. But you're talking about someone who you would, like my grandmother or my teacher is. Or you can do like 으십니다. You're talking about someone you want to show extra respect, but you're talking to someone you also want to show extra respect. Or maybe the person you're talking about is also in front of you. Like that. 정말 좋은 사람이십니다. Like you are, or whoever is, such a really good person. So 입니다, the 니다 form, it's honorific because it uses 십니다, but it's formal because it ends with 니다. So it shows respect to the person you're talking to and respect to the person you're talking about, which is the person you're also talking to. But this topic, if it's still confusing, don't worry, because this is actually a very large topic. I've done lives about this. I've done lessons about this in my beginner course. I've done a whole course about politeness levels you can find on my channel. It's a 26 lesson course all about politeness levels, also completely free. But yeah, those are unrelated to each other, so Noah Deep says, will you be doing live streams and lessons while in Korea? I'll be doing live streams in Korea, but not lessons. Not that's why I donated, but yeah. It's really just a way to funnel the money back into Adobe. That's how you were able to convince the Adobe heads to send you money to pump into my live streams, because the deal you made with them, the deal behind closed doors, was that Billy is going to spend this money to get Adobe subscriptions. So it's kind of like, it's an interesting way, a clever way to launder money through the company. But it's okay. I won't tell anyone. Let's see. Sue Amazing says, how do you say it is not hard or it is not that hard for you as a native in Korean? For example, Hanja is not hard for you as a native. So as a something is 치고 or 치고는. 치고는 is the same thing, just with more emphasis. Like 치고 is as a something, and 치고는 is as a something. It just has more emphasis. So you can say 한국 사람 or 한국인 or 한국분, however you want to say Korean person. Let's just say 한국인. 한국인 means Korean person. 한국인 치고는, so as or for a Korean. So as a Korean or for a Korean, 어렵다, difficult. You can say 어려워요. It's difficult for a Korean, or 어렵지 않아요. Now this for a or as a is like something that's unexpected, something that's out of the ordinary. So if you're saying something like, it's easy for a Korean, or wow, you speak good English for a Korean, it's kind of unexpected like that, then you use 치고는. My tablet just died again. Battery is terrible on this. It only lasts like 2 hours. Okay, now I have to squint to read everyone's messages. 원어민으로서 한자가 별로 안 어려워요. So that's another as a. So that's not for a Korean. It's difficult. That's when you're just saying in the position of a Korean, being a Korean, if you can think of it like that. So as a Korean, foreigner, or native speaker, in your case, 원어민. So native speaker. So as a native speaker, that's fine. You would use 으로서 for that usage. And if you're saying something that's unexpected for being that, then you would use 치고. Yeah, how do you think I got to be in this position with the company? So you're actually Adobe's financial director, right? Because that's how they gotta funnel all the money through the company. Like, we have $75 million. We can't report this on our taxes. How do we do it? And your Kai's like, popping up the Billy stream, I got an idea. For the Adobe fund. And then you look at the CEO, and they're like, good job, Kai. I am Bem says, what's the difference between 으로 and 치고 in this context? So yeah, again, 치고 is used when something's out of the ordinary for being something. So if it's something unexpected, out of the ordinary, or unusual, for or as, then you use chigo. Like for a Korean, your English is really good. For a foreigner, you speak really good Korean like that. Or for being a I don't know. You know what I mean. For being a construction worker, you can sing really well. Something that's out of the ordinary or unusual, that sort of for or as, use chigo. If it's not that sort of meaning, if you just mean like, as a Korean person, I am fluent naturally in Korean. If you're not, it's not something out of the ordinary or unusual, then you use 으로서. 으로서. I've done other live streams. My live stream from August 29th, 2021 also teaches this usage if you want to know more about it. Fisho says, is lesson still going on? No, lesson's over. Now is ranting time, just hanging out, answering questions. What's the difference between... Oh, okay, so I see that's IMBM's question. D-Man says, I've been learning Spanish for years and I'm finally good at it. Now I'm learning Korean and it's so weird. Just different. Nice. Nastaria. Wait, is this for caviar or not? Oh, caviar fun. Okay. $15. Now we're getting into cheap caviar territory. I could actually buy a cheap jar of caviar with that. Legitimately, like real caviar. Not the top of the shelf stuff, but you're getting like an actual jar at this point. I've got a long way to go, but another addition to the caviar fun. Thank you, Nastaria. Okay, I'll just take a few more questions. Can you apply the same logic to things? Yes, you can. For a hot dog, if hot dogs are disgusting, then if it's clear to the listener that you think hot dogs are disgusting, then yes. But otherwise, it's kind of a random sentence to say, right? Hey, for a hot dog, this is really good. The person listening is like, what? Hot dogs are good. What are you talking about for a hot dog? So in that case, it could be kind of vague. But if it's clear, like you are known as the guy who hates hot dogs, every time your friends see you, they're like, oh, that's a Walker, the hot dog hater. Then yeah. But I get what your question is. Billy, did you notice, Fish asks, Billy, did you notice your listening comprehension get better when you practice speaking versus when you're just only doing listening practice and no speaking practice? No. Not really. My listening practice got better by doing lots of listening. My speaking got better by doing lots of speaking, and they also help each other a little bit too. When I do lots of listening, it also helps my speaking a little bit. And when I do lots of speaking, it also helps my listening a little bit because both of those help my comprehension, but in different ways. If you can only pick one, I would say probably you want to pick listening practice over speaking practice if you can only pick one, but you still will need both of them to get good at Korean because you're not just going to start speaking if you're not practicing speaking. No one just listens to a million hours of Korean TV and then opens their mouth and speaks Korean. It doesn't happen. What does happen is they will listen to a ton of Korean, secretly study a bunch, practice a bunch, and then pretend that they never did any of that and all they did was listening. You need speaking practice. You need practice using the language to be able to use it fluidly. Hey, Kai, what is this, Kai? You just supported me, Kai, and now you're supporting me again? Kai, wait, is this for the... Okay, it's not for the cake. It's not for the cake fund, so we're going to put it down here. 35, that's like 3 or 4 different Adobe software subscriptions. Kai says, I funnel all our money, LOL. I'm sorry Adobe's not doing too well these days. I guess with the terms and conditions about training artificial intelligence on users, contents really hurt the stock. So their budget used to be $75 million and now it's $35 a week. Kai says, I funnel all our money. I just want to give my usual thank you for all you do to teach us and tell us, all the newcomers, to check out your free beginner course. And then what are you doing? You're paying me money to promote my stuff, Kai. This isn't how it's supposed to work. This isn't how any of this is supposed to work. But thank you. Hold on. Let me, I'll post my beginner course in the chat. Yes, I have a free beginner course. There's nothing you could pay for it. It's completely free. It's almost at 1 million views. I'm actually really happy about that. It's really close to being 1 million views. The beginner course. I mean, the whole course is over that, but like the first episode, it's like 995 or something like that. Really close. Do you have a recommendation on where to find fantasy books that are actually written in Korean? The internet. There are some fantasy writers that write online web novels. So that would be called, here, let me give you the word. But there's something you have to know about them. And the word you want is 환타지. 환타지 means fantasy. I mean, there's another, 환상 is a fantasy in Korean, but the word they use for that genre would be 환타지 web 소설, so web novel. These are novels that people, they don't publish them in books. They just write them as a novel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if a Korean knows what I'm talking about, they are not the best place to learn Korean. The Korean's kind of weird with a lot of them that I've seen. Because I was once trying to find some web novels to read as well. And people recommended some different web novels for fantasy or different genres. The Korean's kind of weird for some of them. So by that, I mean like overly complex, like trying to write it really fancy, but it doesn't quite make sense. So I would say very high level for that sort of reading. But yes, they exist and you can find them. And they're probably going to be free because they're just web novels. That was, though, a long time ago. That was probably like 8 or 9 years ago. It's possible some people have published theirs, have gotten them edited. And if you want to search for those, I would say search on Naver. Do not bother searching on Google. Naver will give it to you much more quickly. They'll give you the right answers. They'll just give you the links. Google might make you search for it a lot. Oh, Kai says, I'd like my dabs, please. Okay. Here we go. We got a lot. We got to get all this done. Okay. Got to get the music. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, 35. Hold on, I gotta catch up the dabs for the cake as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Walker says comprehensible input in Korean. Yeah, any channel. There's comprehensible. There's a channel, comprehensible input. I'm aware of that. There are a bunch of podcasts. I made a podcast recommendation video a couple months ago as well. The truth is, though, if you're just looking for comprehensible input, which is basically just input that's not too hard, is what it means. Something that kind of is at your level. Literally any YouTuber in the entire peninsula, all of Korea, will be able to fill that. Just find anyone talking about anything. Now, podcasts are good because, especially the Korean teaching podcasts are good because their Korean will be always very clear. They know that there are Korean listeners listening, so they're going to try to say everything as accurately as possible. If they make a mistake, they might correct themselves. But besides that, you're safe to use whatever you want. So I'm fine recommending those types of channels. I'm fine recommending podcasts, but I'm also fine just saying, go on YouTube and search for something that you like and find a YouTuber who makes that content in Korean. I guarantee you there will be some. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a channel that's made for Korean learners, you're still going to get a lot out of it. There aren't going to be very many, I mean, unless you're comparing it with like YouTube live streamers who just say whatever. Most YouTubers are aware of how they sound and they want to be clear anyway. So if you find a YouTuber, say like on beauty tutorials, they're not going to be using slang and speaking really quickly. They're going to be speaking very clearly. They're going to have built-in subtitles. It's still going to be really useful. So I would just say find something on YouTube that you enjoy. Find a hobby, something you're interested in, or just find some mealtime videos, you know, random 20-minute, 30-minute videos of stuff. Just watch those. I think those are going to be just as helpful. The point, though, is that you want to find a lot of material by the same person, preferably, so you can kind of get used to hearing their voice and words that they use. That way you can learn new words. So I wouldn't just say find random videos from everyone. I would say find videos until you find someone that you like their content, and then subscribe to them and watch every single video of theirs that you can until you like memorize how they talk and the words they use and everything. That's what I would recommend. So, oh yeah, Raymond's talking about 나 혼자 level up, yeah. You're talking about this, right? Yeah, this is a comic. It's not a web novel, but it's a comic. I didn't get into it though, but I did get it. There are a lot of comics, a lot of web novels, a lot of stuff like that you can consume. So there's never any lack of Korean learning contents out there. The dabs will keep you strong with Jeremy. Yes. Yeah, Taewoong-sam. Yeah, he runs a couple channels. He has the All Things Korean podcast, which I also recommended in my podcast video. I really like that. I think the Korean learning podcasts are cool. The only downside to them is that there's not enough content. So, for example, someone who has 100 videos, that might seem like it's a lot, but it's really nothing. Because if you find any YouTuber out there, they're going to have like hundreds of videos. So hundreds of hours of content. So that's the only downside, is that it's not as much content as you probably need, but still useful. Is Workdoll I've never heard of that. I love watching Ujuhama Space Hippo for gaming. We also watch him in Billy's Discord. Really? I don't know who that is. I'll have to check out my own Discord, I guess. I like watching gaming videos in Korean sometimes. That's what I did a lot, especially during the first couple of years when COVID was new. I just watched while I was working on my beginner course for 4 hours a day, at least 3 or 4 hours a day. I would watch one after another Korean gaming YouTube videos, and it's great. I mean, you learn a lot of gaming words, which are pretty useless outside of playing games, but you get to hear a lot of general, like just talking, which was really useful. So I think it helped a lot. And there are a lot of fun Korean gaming channels out there you can find. Sue Amazing says, I'm back. Welcome back. All right, any last minute questions? Then I got to edit this video for today. We've been going now for 3 hours, almost. Actually, yeah, in 5 more minutes, I'll have gone 3 hours for this stream. So we're going to stop before we get there. So any last questions? But yeah, if you search for web novels in Korean and they're really hard to read, don't say I didn't warn you. For me, though, my preferred type of listening practice has been just YouTube videos. YouTube videos and, yeah, just YouTube videos. That'll be most of the listening practice that I get. Or talking with people when I'm in Korea. Okay, any last minute questions? If not, we'll end. Gonna end if I don't get another question in the next 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Is it true you should listen to the same gender so you mimic the correct tones and stuff? So, should you listen to someone of the same gender as you in order so that you can better mimic the way that gender sounds? Yes. But you don't need to ignore the other gender, anyone else, unless, like, what you want to do is the bulk of your listening should be from the way you want to sound. So instead of like, oh, you have to copy someone of, like, if you're a male, you have to listen to other males. It's not quite that simple. It's more like, how do you want to sound? Do you want to sound like this kind of person? Do you want to sound like this gender? Great. You should make sure to get as much listening practice from someone of that same gender as possible. But if you hear a girl talk and say you're a guy and you want to speak like how another guy talks, but this is going to be the most common situation. You're a guy, you want to speak like a guy. You're a girl, you want to speak like a girl. Most common situation. Some guys might be like, oh, I actually prefer to speak like a girl. Cool. But if you're listening to guys speak mostly and you hear a girl speak, don't be like, yeah, I don't want to hear girls speak. It's going to mess up my Korean. No, it's fine. But you want to make sure that the majority of the content you're listening to is going to be the way that you want to speak, because subconsciously you're going to be mimicking that already in your head. You're already going to be mimicking the way that someone else speaks when you spend a lot of time with them. It's the same way, like, married couples start talking kind of like each other, right? Friends, you'll imitate the way your friends do things. Like, I kind of laugh the way that my best friend laughs because I spent a lot of time with him. Or we start saying some of the same things. It's the same thing. So if you listen to someone talk, you're going to start imitating them. So if you only listen to people of a different gender that you don't want to talk like, that's how you're going to end up talking. Slowly. So you want to get mostly from the same gender, but it's okay if you get a little bit from the others, because it's fine. You still want to be able to recognize how other people speak. Just make sure the bulk of your content is the way that you want to sound. And that goes into like shadowing. If you want to copy how someone speaks, you find clips of someone speaking and you listen to them over and over again. You listen to more clips of that person speaking, and then you try to imitate them. And that slowly helps you to develop more natural intonation and pronunciation. So yes, that's the long-winded answer to your question. Yes, you do. Okay. He speaks English so well, so translates English for his Korean audience, and his editor put in Korean subtitles. I would suggest slowing down the videos a little because he speaks fast. Most Korean YouTubers you'll find actually put subtitles in their videos. From what I found, at least vloggers do. The ones who don't would be like ones who just stream all the time, that they don't have time for that. But most YouTubers in Korea have subtitles built into their videos. What's the meaning of 인정? The first part I'm not sure. The second part I know. But what was the K-pop group? Let me check. Is this a K-pop? Let me check. I'm not sure. The second one, though, is a common way to say 인정, like agreed. I can't spell. Like, yeah, agreed. 인정. But I'm not sure what the first part is for. It could be something based on what they said. Okay. All right. That is our lesson for today. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.